yet?
I am now recording, so I think we
Okay.
can get going.
Okay. So I guess just to open things up, um, a lot of things are going to vary, obviously, depending on what kind of comp you're going to run and what kind of comp they're going to run. Just from the brief experience I have at trying to get an organized team to play at GM and higher, it sounds like the pros have distinct roles that I didn't really break down in this way, but just for an example, I guess, just to give us a framework to kind of think about what we're going to be looking at.
Okay.
The two kinds of calls for the most, or the three kinds of calls. So there's like a subcategory that's like a fourth one. So we'll be thinking about shot calls, target calls, info calls. And these are all just things related to the communication on your team. And then kind of like a subcategory is alt tracking. And that would be a subclass of an info call, but is important enough that we like need to specifically focus on it also. And so I've always kind of thought of the game in kind of three stages. Obviously, at high ranks, the most important stage, or maybe not the most important, but ones that will come up a lot more at higher ranks and really decide what's like the outcome is the team fight and whether or not that succeeds. But before that, which I think arguably is more important, is staging and planning that fight and what exactly you're going to be trying to do. And then there's the post fight, which
Yeah,
these
no.
different calls will become different priorities during these different stages. So, target calls during a team fight should be the number one thing that you're listening to. And generally, the target caller, from what I've gathered, is your main tank. And so the target calls are just explicitly who you should be killing at any given moment. And that's, a lot of people just manifest this call as screaming the target over and over
Right,
and over
yeah.
again.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's up to the main tank to decide who the target is. And there are a lot of factors that go into that, whether you think it's because they're particularly dangerous or you think that you could kill them, yada yada yada. The
Right,
main tank makes the call, and it's up to everyone else to trust that that is the correct call, even if it isn't.
right.
Because focusing a target down that's gettable is probably better for you than having your fire split and letting both of them get out alive. But so that's the first one. And then shot calls are happening simultaneously between staging and the team fights. So in the staging section, shot calls will be what you want to listen to. So this is planning kind of where you want to engage, where it's strong for your team to engage, or how you want to use your ultimates. And always right before the staging, because ideally the game kind of goes staging, team fights, post fights, staging, team fights, post fights, as the attackers try to take whatever objective from the defenders. Your shot calls will be based on your ult tracking calls in the post fight. So as soon as a fight is like listed as a non-threat or recognized as a non-threat anymore, and you're in the cleanup stages and you're going back to the staging, you should be extra aware that your ult tracker, who is usually an off support, um, gets that information out. So they say, like, I'm pretty sure they have this ult. I'm pretty sure we have this ult. Everybody can press tab and see what ults they have. But if you want to explicitly list them out, like that's fine too. So that your shot caller, who I guess is usually the main support, but I think it could probably be any of the tanks or supports. Um, so that your shot caller has more information to actually come up with a plan. And then once the plan is established in your staging, that's what you try to play to because it's your identified win condition. But there can also be little mini shots that are going on during a team fight. So you want to be listening to your target caller first in a team fight, but you want to have your ears open for little micro shot calls that come through from your shot caller, as in like, oh, they just used DM, no DM. Okay, let's grab, boom, and then like your off tank grabs or whatever. So there's like little
Okay.
mini plans like that. Um,
Yeah, I think
a
that
lot
there's
of
I think there's some ambiguity maybe this is like for me, but I sense that it's a team thing. In terms of the difference between a target call and a shot call, I think that most of the time when people use the word shot, they actually also mean target. They don't
Mhm.
disambiguate between these two things.
So here's another thing that'll get you into a lot of trouble is that target calls and shot calls are completely separate from info calls. So
Yeah.
target calls and shot calls kind of fall into a category of executive calls. They are calls for action. They're telling your team what to do. Info calls and ult tracking calls are not calls for action, but they are there for info for your target caller or your shot caller. So like an example of an info call would be Ana's 1, Genji's 1, whoever's
Right.
half. This
Right.
ability's off cooldown. That does not necessarily mean that the team should focus that target. It's instead giving information for your target caller. And if then they decide that that's important and that changes their decision, they can choose to switch the targets. But
Okay.
until that call comes through, uh, if someone is low and you think you can get the kill for free, go for it because it's going to help your team. But if they're running like goats and they're one and they're kind of safe and bubble
Yeah.
or brig it and
Shit.
bubble or brig pack could save them at any second, like the you got to listen to your target caller because your target caller at high ranks is going to be telling you who needs to die, not necessarily who can die, but who needs to die.
Right.
And if you all focus your attention to that one target, then most of the time, even if it's a Reinhardt and he's going to get DM and he's going to get bubbled, if you all focus your energy towards that, you can still kill him. I
Right.
promise. I promise. Um,
We don't need to do the math. We can just know.
right. Um, And, I say I promise, but sometimes they just maneuver better, like they speed boost out, so your unblockable Reinhardt and Brigitte damage doesn't get to the discorded Rein quite, and he gets all the way into the back, and then Brigitte and Zarya kind of tag out with him and take the front line and push you away and threaten to kill you. And like, so yeah, he might get out, but if they're out of position, and that's even just like I don't know, a Lucio's boot distance away from like the main cluster and goats, like you could surround them and kill them before their team could do anything about it, even if they do get Zarya bubbled. So
Right.
it's important, I guess the point is important to listen to your target caller, and then just kind of trust that the target that they're calling is the one that needs to die. And maybe you don't get the kill on the Ana that's one in the back, but you kill the Reinhardt and they have no shield, and it lets your DPS do work and actually put pressure onto the point and clean up. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the framework that if this is going to be chaotic, we'll kind of try to think
So,
about.
don't know for sure, but like, what would so earlier you said like an example of shot calling was like Eva just used DM grab now. Is that the kind of flavor for all shot calls, or is there something more specific that differentiates between target and shot calling?
Target calling is explicitly calling and like commanding your team that is ready and hopefully willing to focus a target with abilities and damage. So
Okay.
it's saying that you want them to die.
Right.
Shot calling is planning and like ability management or like ult management
Okay.
specifically. So yeah, you could say like focus Zarya because she has Grav as the target caller, or you could just say Zarya, 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 and then your shot caller who's playing says solo grab her because she needs to die or something like that.
Okay.
It's just like here is your plan, an executive plan. Like here's what we are gonna do, and we need to do it. And the target caller is just like this has a high priority because they can't be thinking about both things at the same time, really. So you need to listen to your target caller first as who needs to die, but hopefully comms are clear enough that you'll be able to at least hear your shot caller in the background kind of micromanaging or keeping track of all of the abilities that are up and or down and letting you know or commanding you to take advantage of certain opportunities that exist. So and then the whole while, your DPS and all of the other people on your team will be making info calls where it'll just be like, Widow's back left, like watch Widow back left, whatever. Or this person's slow, or like Zarya no projected, Zarya no personal. All of those don't necessarily call for a specific action, but are just there to help the people that are making the executive decisions make their decisions better.
Thank
So,
you.
yep. Okay. So yes, just recapping, staging, listen to your shot caller. They're the one that's looking at the ults. based on the info they got from the ult tracker, and they're gonna give you a plan. Like we're gonna engage hard at the choke, so save speed boost, save DM, save bubbles. We're gonna grab them as soon as we go in. Whatever, get a clean fight, get our ult economy going back up. And then once the fight is actually happening and all shit has broken loose, and this is kind of the problem that the IU team had, is like once things got chaotic, it's like, what do we do?
Right.
That's when your target caller kind of takes over and is like, this one, this
Okay.
one, this one, this one, this one, this one.
Right.
Yeah. So that you can clean up your plan that you're trying to execute as fast as you can. Um, so yeah. And then there's kind of an ambiguity between like movement calls and kind of what goes in with that. So like as a main tank, you'll be watching the enemy team mostly because they're really all you can see. So you'll be looking to see, and Goats is just the easiest example, check to see when Zarya's bubbles come out, how low their DMs are. Ryan's shield obviously is one of them. You'll be checking to see when Brigitte uses pack, whether or not you're discorded. And if all those things like line up appropriately, like their Ryan's discorded, they don't have Brigitte pack, they don't have any bubbles, push, there's some ambiguity of whether that is a target caller's job or a shot caller's job. So
Gotcha.
it'll be up for you guys to decide.
Yeah.
Who wants to be looking at the enemy team and tracking when they're vulnerable and when they're not vulnerable. Because that's the thing about Overwatch is the characters, unless they're ulting, always look the same. The only way you're gonna know how scary they actually are if you were to just jump into their team is by tracking the abilities they've used. Like Zarya, if you're just looking at her, it's like, does she have bubble or doesn't she have bubble? Does their soldier have Helix Rocket? Doesn't he have Helix Rocket? Does Brigitte have Bash or Pack or Whip Shot? I don't know, because they all look the same all the time. So the only way you're gonna know is if you've been watching the past 5 seconds. So
yeah. I think that as we listen, you're going to hear everybody doing all of these things, but it's been pretty much the case that like I'm supposed to be doing the shot and the target calling. That's normally what happens.
yeah, and that's a role that I've done a lot too, and it does work to some degree, but it also makes it a little more confusing and it's harder to think when you're in the middle of a fight when you're calling a target.
Yeah.
Whereas someone who has less pressure on them to be focusing like the most threatening target at any given time and trying to get the team to coordinate around them, like a support or an off tank that's kind of just sitting in, maybe the mid back and like has some breathing room to actually think about bigger picture things that we could be doing or you could be doing.
Right.
Because they can see more of it. So like, your Zenyatta or your Mercy could be doing the shot calling because they can see the battlefield, but the main tank is just trying to kill the thing in front of them and needs everyone to help them do it. And if you're playing monkey, like you can choose where right in front of you is, or if you're goatsing, then usually it's just Reinhardt in front of you.
Right.
Okay.
2 Spanish-speaking people in that team.
All right, what do we need here?
A fucking miracle.
I need a hero.
So you guys will also have to plan what kind of comps you want to run.
On the city center again. We have a short list of comps that we tend to run, and this is. Oh yeah.
The city center is what the temple. The temple.
Zenyatta? Question mark.
Cool.
No, the temple has the. No, that's the library. I'm thinking of the library with the hole in the middle.
We definitely end up switching here.
Hanger, what are you doing?
Okay.
Get down from the. Get down.
So I assume you're gonna run just full dive.
Yeah.
I mean Hammond.
Okay.
Totally Hammond.
That's fine. So in this year's end, definitely needs to be calling discorded targets if they can't get a target discorded that your tank is calling as an info call. Okay, so I didn't hear it, but I was also talking. So this is obviously the staging part of a fight. So
oh yeah, I
the whole
definitely
time,
didn't say anything about doing what I'm about to do.
right? But the whole time you're doing this, you can kind of, you have to walk all the way up here. It takes like 10 seconds or however long it takes. You can be, since you are running dive, talking about, where your flankers might be rotating to, where exactly you want to try to hold. It can be something as simple as like, let's take high ground and see what they've got, and then we'll come up with a quick plan to try to get a good engagement off of that. But
yeah, and if I say that, then the expectation would be that like maybe Tracer goes this way and Genji comes up with me and Diva to this high ground.
Yeah.
That kind of the idea. Okay.
Well, it's always a fine idea to start on high ground because if Tracer drops down, but then she decides that she needs to get back up, she can always recall, and Genji can always just dash back up.
Right.
Oh, but if you're on the low ground trying to take the high ground, a lot of characters would have to use time or abilities to get up there. But if you're already on the high ground, it's much easier to go to the low ground. So if Monkey is on low ground, he has to use jump to get up here. But if he started on high ground, he can just drop down for free, zap people, and jump back up for safety.
Right. That's what I tend to prefer to do here.
Yeah. And nothing obviously wrong. Yeah, it's just that you could be using the blank time.
Clearly the comms aren't working in our favor right now.
Yeah. And so depending on what they have, there are different kind of like broad picture strategies that you can communicate and kind of go over time. So if they're running goats and they come through this main doorway, you can be like, okay, we're going to set up to like flank them. So as I'll set up on right side with the core of the team. So like Mercy might be hovering up here while your Monkey gets some poke damage from this side, and Genji might be just like shooting at them from high ground, and then Tracer might be over here on the other side just annoying them. And so as they try to come through this choke, you basically deny them that space. So that's one larger picture that you could do. Or if they try to come through this doorway, you could do a similar thing where you have Monkey kind of sitting up on high ground, going down and coming back up to pressure them, and then like Genji and Tracer coming at different angles down here.
Right, just harassing them in the door frame.
Yeah, so you're playing a very mobile comp. If they're running one that isn't mobile, then you need to be thinking of it in that regard, is that you can just, if they are in a confined space, you can harass them all you want. If they're in an open space, then you need to kind of assess them individually and see if there's a target that, like, if this is the circle of where they're standing, and their Zenyatta is like over here, then you might be like, Zenyatta's out of position. I'm going to jump him in 3, 2, 1, bam, right on the Zenyatta free pick. And then you can kind of stabilize for the next 3 or 4 seconds, let your abilities come back up, and do it again and again and again. If they are running a mobile comp, so like I said, high ground is useful for this. If they're running something mobile, you might want to just stay on high ground and make their Monkey jump up to you, maybe from this doorway, or like their Genji tries to climb up a wall and tries to come get you. And you basically just see wherever they're going and whatever abilities they're using, and you try to counter dive them. So a risky way to do this is to bait them. So you have somebody that like looks alone on high ground, and you're just like waiting for them to jump on them, and then as soon as you do it, you call it. So like you have a soldier up here or something, and he's peppering kind of their supports as they're walking through, and you're like, okay, as soon as Monkey dives in, we're gonna counter dive him, and he jumps in. You're like, Monkey, 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 go, 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 and everybody jumps up there and kills him. And then those are just little mini plans that you can develop to at least have something to try to work towards, instead of just kind of picking the target that's closest to you and shooting at them. So we'll see what happens.
Alrighty.
They have Hammond as well. Hammond on me. I'm gonna jump the Anna in the back. Such a bad call. Right. It's like no one can go with me, and like.
Reaper's down. Reaper down.
Alright, jumping the Anna. And I'm purple, and like, what? I don't have a bubble, and then they end up having a May. It's just really bad. It's just like, I should have done any number of the things that you suggested before you push play, and I in fact did the opposite. I just threw away the high ground advantage.
Yeah. So yeah, the Ana is vulnerable back there. One important thing to note as Monkey is that if there's a not very mobile character, you can just, and you don't necessarily need to kill the Ana, you can just cut that character off with a bubble. Just like kind of drop bubble in front of the Ana, and she's gonna have to take several seconds to get through it.
Yeah.
And then if there was a character on point that instead you wanted to focus on, because Mei is not very good in the open, you could do that as an alternative.
Yeah,
as like as the main tank.
It looks like I jumped before I had bubble, which was stupid.
Yeah, and you accidentally dropped your bubble off of the side up here.
Yeah.
Before you jumped in. When you were fighting the Reaper.
In the back. Yeah, it just like
goes
down there.
Yeah. So another thing to keep in mind is that when they first come out of the door, like you don't have to do anything.
No.
immediately because you still have 10 seconds on the clock before the point even starts unlocking.
Right.
And you have very mobile characters like Genji and Tracer that are actually down here right now. They would stall this point out forever because they only have a ball to challenge them because
Right.
Reaper just died. Their Ana's right here. Their Mei is right here. Their Arisa's right here. They're not coming around the point anytime soon.
No. Like
You have all the time in the world to try to figure something out.
they
and
pretty
set
much have a hard line here, right?
Right.
Like to where they want to hold.
So yeah.
Oh no, there's a Reaper.
So you guys kind of instinctively focused the Reaper.
Yeah.
Zenyatta did a decent job discording him, and you guys got the kill because you guys were still patient. And then something you should be doing right now, because now is about the time where their team comp would be revealed. So you would have seen
Should tab.
if you'd push tab right now that there's probably a Mei
Oh.
like down there somewhere.
Okay.
But that's just another reason that you don't necessarily need to go in too early.
Right.
Just kind of be patient and make sure that you have the information and that you guys can actually come up with some sort of strategy before you get too carried away trying to jump into the back here. Because then once you've identified that those are the targets they have, you can call for like Tracer or Genji to come around the side or just to come to the point right here. And then you could actually just drop a bubble right in front of their Orisa who's set up too far. Like I would say she's out of position right now. You can get one of your DPS to poke her, get Fortify out, and then just jump in, drop bubble, and she'd be a dead target for sure.
Orisa should set up right there, right? Because the
Yeah,
point hasn't
theoretically.
unlocked yet.
Yeah. They should be doing the same thing that you're doing. So like the Hammond technically shouldn't have come in for a pile driver because if you guys had a Reaper and a Brig on high ground, he could have gotten punished and killed, but you don't, so he got away with it, which is fine. But their Orisa is also playing a little too aggressive right now, and their Mei really wouldn't be able to do much to you on point. So if you guys, develop your plan and you just say like, okay, we're going to focus the people on point because generally that's what you want to do because you want to gain control of the point. If you coordinated in a timely fashion, got Fortify out and killed their Orisa, there's nothing that they could do really to contest the point from you. Orisa is the only anchor here that's giving them any sort of point presence. And Mei would not be able to stay alive on point with a monkey, Discord, Genji, and Tracer if you called her properly.
Right. Banana? Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. I did not do that.
And that's fine, that's fine. But this isn't lost yet because it's an even fight still. You're down your main tank, which is unfortunate, but it looks like they're down Reaper and Zenyatta right now. So this is when your shot caller, might be telling you that you need to stabilize now or, what you're going to do to actually win this point. So we'll see if...
Focus the Mei if you can, because Mei is...
Okay, that's good. Good call on the Mei. She was out of position.
Wow.
Oh fuck.
Follow me.
Reaper coming back on
Oh,
point. Okay, nope,
looks
nope,
like
nope,
Reaper's
nope,
back. Nobody saw him, so it's something that you guys should be aware of.
All discorded.
I'm still on it.
Falcon jumping on us.
Focusing ball.
nope.
Which, by the way, I know is not my top priority, but he was the only thing in front of me.
Oh no, Reaper's
Yeah. Well, this is the point when you look at their comp and you say, oh, they're running 3 tanks.
Focusing monkey.
We might need more damage, like a soldier or a Reaper.
Okay. Monkey's down. Focusing. At this point, though, like, I feel like the writing's on the wall, and dive isn't. If we're gonna keep with it, Tracer Genji, like,
Yeah.
I just can't stay on as monkey. Like, it's not gonna work.
So something you could do here, which would be pretty solid, is that you could probably keep the monkey dive, and you could keep one of your dive characters, so Genji or Tracer. And since they have so many tanks, you want more damage, so I would probably, I don't know, I'm trying to think, Genji or Tracer. I would probably drop Genji here for a soldier.
Okay.
And I would probably drop Zen for a Brigida in this. And what you can do on your next engagement, since this one's probably lost because Hamster got his mines out, and their Mei and their Reaper are still alive, is that you could get Soldier on high ground with the Brigida, And then, the only people that can get up to him are really Hamster and Monkey, and then Brigida would be able to keep him alive, and he's just going to rain damage down on their little bunker Reaper May bullshit that's going on here.
Right.
And that amount of distraction would also let him make info calls to let you know who is one, and then you'd know who to target as you jump in as Monkey.
Okay.
So
May?
I definitely did not think of any of that. So I'm pretty sure we switched to.
And minefield.
I don't do it.
I'm gonna have
Not yet.
Oh, shit, the
You guys have a lot of
minefield
ults.
not down yet. Jesus Christ! Oh no, I think that was a really
Pull back. Pull back. Pull back.
Huh? I'm too old.
Okay, so that's a good
Yeah,
call to pull back.
I
It
was
could have
just
been
really excited, sorry about that.
sooner.
The only person we can jump is Anna.
Yeah.
They have no.
Okay, the Reaper just wasted his ult.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm almost there, guys. I'm almost there. I just got out of spawn.
Alright, so Hannah's also their only healer too, by the way.
Yeah.
They're running solo Ana triple tank.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Trans.
Have you pressed tab yet? That's
I
one
think
thing.
I think I did.
Okay, I think you did as you came out of spawn.
Yeah, I tend to do that out of spawn.
I push
like the
tab
only thing I can
all
look
the
at.
time. But
If I'm
It's
not
just a-
pressing tab, it's because I'm trying to listen more intently for information.
okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I push tab a lot just because it's a way to have like a clear list in front of you of like the things you should be thinking about. Of like, here are the characters they have, because sometimes it's hard to just remember from memory. Like, what 6 were they running? It just takes a lot longer than just having all 6 of them in front of you and being like, okay, I don't think they have that old. I do think they have that one. Whatever. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
You
and
can
right
just
now
be-
I'm not doing that math to think about ults. Like I know that much. I remember that much about this moment.
Right. So you push tab out of spawn, and you can see that you guys have disadvantage because they got their bunker reestablished. You guys had 2 picks to start the fight off, but you guys didn't really have any plan to isolate the Orisa and deal with the things that are actually on the point. You guys kind of got distracted by the ball. Amidst the ball, since it seemed like what he was doing was pretty non-committal, you probably could have gotten a pick on the Orisa, or maybe focused on the monkey if you guys had called for that. But you're coming out of spawn here,
Hold on.
Escaping me.
And minefield.
and you press tab. And so you've got mines, you got trans, you got pulse bomb, you got blade. They're only running Ana, so that blade should definitely get a kill on their only healer. And then you can kind of choose what you want to do with pulse bomb. You probably wouldn't kill Reaper or May unless your tracer is observant, and you just. So the info calls that you should be calling when you're actually going into fights is Reaper no Wraith and May no Ice Block. And once those things are down, you can get guaranteed kills with Pulse Bomb on Reaper or May.
Yeah, we
or
definitely try
you-
to do that when we can. Yeah.
Okay. But then also just kind of basing your engagements on Discord will continue to be important. And then as for these two, this is kind of just why you need more
Damage.
sustainability and damage, because these guys are just going to be annoying as hell for you all game. Like Hamster's going to be slamming you constantly, and you have no stuns to deal with that. And Monkey's going to be jumping in and just bubbling and doing the same thing basically, and you again have no stuns to deal with it. But I mean, technically, Discord and Tracer and Genji Burst would be enough to deal with it, but it all seems like you guys are kind of trying to accomplish different things. So some of you are kind of in their backline, some of you are kind of in your backline. Whereas if you were all one place or the other, then you could punish like them overextending or being too passive.
I'm gonna have a.
Oh
rest
shit,
in
the
3
minefield's
seconds.
not down yet. Jesus Christ!
So as soon as these two went down,
Yeah.
should have been a back out. So kind of as you're coming out of spawn, though your Zen does manage to get there May, which might be relevant if she had ult. But I don't know. But then their Reaper blows ult anyway
No,
because
I
he's
think that
bad.
was a really.
Right.
Pull back. Pull back. Pull back.
Huh? I'm too old.
Oh
yeah,
shit.
I was just getting excited. Sorry about
The only person we can jump is Anna.
Yeah.
They have no.
Okay, the Reaper just wasted his ult.
Yeah.
I did
Hold
not
on, I'm
respect
almost there,
this
guys,
Hannah
almost
the
there.
whole game.
Just got out of
She
spawn.
got me
Alright, so
purpled
Hannah's
so many
also their
times like
only
that.
healer too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that, maybe Zarya would be more useful here
Oh,
than
yeah,
a
I
Hamster.
thought we switched to. I must be thinking of a different Oasis game where I think earlier on we did
Right.
make that
Okay, I have
call.
trans here.
Switched.
Okay.
Have a lot of sustain.
Because Bubble heals purple and
Yeah,
would
yeah,
save
Why
you.
did I do that?
Reaper's down.
Reaper's down.
I don't know if you saw that Reaper before you jumped, but it's a good thing that your Tracer killed him.
Not nice.
Focusing monkey.
I
think I did know that he was over
there.
I get the May actually. She's gonna push forward like that.
Yeah, May's still super out of position right
I'll
here.
use the shield. I'll use the shield.
It's an unfortunate pulse bomb there.
Yeah.
Kind of recorrect the May's
I
position,
got you.
Yeah.
Got her.
Okay.
but you
No,
still get her,
if you
so that's
can't
good.
hit
Finish half. And then
I should be
Ball
calling
is
ball
low,
there.
you
Ball's
can-
dead.
Yeah,
Too
he
late.
gets killed
Focus
anyway.
Anna.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a good call on the
Where is she?
Anna,
I've
wherever she
completely,
is.
yeah, I've completely lost track of where she
I've
is.
lost track of Anna.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Arisa, you should be calling Arisa right here. She's low. Get rid of their shield.
Alright, focus Reaper.
Reaper
Focus
should have been
Reaper's
called
low.
sooner, in my opinion.
I said I was
You're on-
focusing
you're on
Reaper
shields, you're on
because I
shields.
couldn't see the Ana, but then it doesn't seem
Okay.
like that was.
No one's
I could have
talking,
been
no one's
more belligerent about it.
Oh, then I did
Yeah.
it. 'cause
So it seems like,
They have-
you're calling targets, people are focusing them when they see them and like when they get around to it. But it would be a lot cleaner if you guys staged more appropriately instead of kind of just jumping into them and then trying to figure out who you should be focusing.
Right.
If instead you kind of came up with a plan of like, here's how we're gonna surround them, and here is like who we're gonna target first, roughly,
Okay.
and who we need to be watching out for. So they actually get off ball here, which in my opinion is probably good for you guys because you were having a lot of trouble dealing with all of the girth
Right.
of their stuff. So as long as you guys can get your target focused down, this
They
would be
have a
fine.
Moira now?
But I guess what I was trying to say is that if you guys staged properly and you made sure your DPS kind of saved their abilities and just kind of like poked around and waited for their call to be made, then you guys could burst whatever target you needed to a lot faster. And when you make a call, it could be capitalized on in a split second. So
Right. Because I think we do eventually get it, but like, I don't think they should have gotten 74% here. I feel like
No.
we should have capped it. I probably should not have died, but then also, even if I had, like, we should have been able to finish this faster.
yeah, you guys should have won the first fight. And then since then, it's kind of just been jumping onto the point, which would be fine if you guys were trying to stall it, but you aren't. So you shouldn't just jump onto the point without a plan.
Okay.
And it's just kind of been trickling since then.
Yeah, kind of like dancing between this direction, this direction, this direction. I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
Just trying not to die, as I assume is everybody's main priority right now.
Yeah. So you guys should be playing more coordinated. Like your running dive, you don't necessarily have to play more grouped, but you should have an idea of like the space that you want to take and then who you want to kill within that space. So like for example, if they're setting up on point like main here, which they aren't, they're playing their side over here. But if they were playing up front, then you could coordinate a plan. Like you would stay next to this corner because that's a safe spot for you out of their range. And then Genji and Tracer for free could probably get behind them. And then they'd be like, okay, I'm ready whenever you guys are. And you'd be like, all right, I'm going to dive in on 3. Let's focus the Mei. And just like, jump over the wall, boom. And then both
Yeah.
DPS come in and just immediately delete something.
Okay.
And that's something you could be talking about because when you come into the objective and you don't already have possession of it, like that's the whole thing. It's like you're trying to take possession of it. So there's no reason to jump on it unless you think you're going to get kills and actually like work toward that objective.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to fight on point if you don't control it.
Right.
If you do control it, it's obviously good to keep one person on it so that you don't lose possession of it or to stall it out if the fight is already lost. But I mean, you guys could be doing so much more with like your positioning and your planning because you're running dive. Like you could be all the way on their side right now, and that's really as long as you guys are grouped up and all alive, being on their side is no different than being on your side, and it would actually make them more uncomfortable and give you better angles to focus their vulnerable targets than just coming from exactly where they would expect, which are these 2 doors, and then going straight to point, which is exactly where they're set up to like deal with you.
Right.
So I guess it's just something to keep in mind is that if you don't have control of the objective, the whole goal is to get it back, which usually means you're going to have to kill people. You don't just have to go on to the point. And you shouldn't until you actually have a plan on how you're going to get it back.
Okay.
I died.
No.
Yeah.
So it's backing up. Big old backing up.
Yeah, up there right now.
We get one more push.
I almost have ult.
We don't have enough damage for a double shield.
So you have good ults here. Blade could get their supports theoretically, which would be nice.
I almost have it all.
So something you could be talking about right now is like, okay, we almost have Blade. Let's build the Blade. So like play for Blade would be a way to phrase that. You got 9% left. So Ball will be like, okay, I'm gonna keep point unlocked, play for Blade, and then once Blade happens, go in. And like that's a better plan. It's not the perfect plan because you're not discussing like where you're gonna be coming from, whether or not you want to take high ground, whether or not you want to go on flanks, who exactly you want to target. But it's at least a better plan than the plan that has been said right now, which was someone that whose voice I don't recognize saying I almost have ult. But that's
Right.
like the only plan that has been
Right,
established. now.
It's not really a plan.
Right. It's one
it's a
one
prayer.
info call.
It's
Well, it's one info call. You guys have made one info call.
right.
But no shot calls, and then in the ensuing fight, we'll see if target calls happen.
Yeah. Careful with the Reaper. I am all.
I've just abandoned my team.
Couldn't
Son of a bitch. And because I did that, like they couldn't actually support me, and it's bad.
We should have stuck
Yeah.
it.
Well, so it is actually not too terrible. It would be safer for your Ball to do that,
Yeah.
and he could stall the point out. But it is a legitimate tactic as Monkey to just get behind them in a way that you don't think you'll die. So you do end up dying there, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
And you had Primal.
Well,
but
I
if you
just
do
got
it-
Primal, so I die with Primal. I didn't have Primal there, or I would have.
Do you get it after you die then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
like as you
second
die.
as I die.
Okay, so if you'd lived a millisecond longer, you would have had
Literally.
Primal.
Well,
and so
40
that's something to be
40
thinking about.
milliseconds.
And that's something to be thinking about too, because you probably could have just jumped up here and like Yafara's gonna
Oh
shoot
yeah,
at you,
yeah.
but
Well,
your
yeah, and
bubble
sometimes
is gonna stop it.
sometimes that's the thinking, right? Is like, well, the front is bullshit. Maybe if I go behind, I can zap, and get ult and then survive. I definitely tend to rely on that strategy too much when I'm frustrated.
Sure.
And I'm definitely frustrated at this point.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, this lip right here is Monkey for you specifically would be your best friend against the
Okay.
comp that they had, because May can't get you up there and Reaper can't get you
Well,
up
they've
there.
switched the May at this point for the Pharah.
Yeah, I know they did, but
Yeah.
I'm saying like in the beginning.
Oh, sure.
And even then, it's still good for you because Arisa would have a harder time getting to you,
Yeah.
and everyone would really, because that's how
Right.
high ground works.
Right.
Pharah would be the only one really threatening you. So if you jumped up there instead and just zapped Arisa and her support back here for 2 seconds, then you could have had Primal, which would have put you in a better spot. But it's a legitimate strategy as Winston to jump behind them and pull people's attention. If you had just waited 2 seconds longer and actually communicated that that's what you were gonna do,
Right. I
then your
definitely
DPS
didn't. Yeah.
your DPS would have known to come in. So your tracer like followed you kinda and was on the right side. But if you communicated like, I'm just gonna jump in and get him to turn around, try to build the primal, and you guys can go up main choke. Then as soon as you jump in, your DPS can just kind of walk in here for free because the enemy's gonna turn around for a half a second. And then in this instance, which happens sometimes is Monkey, if you're the target caller, you guys are gonna be like, once I jump in, you guys gotta call the targets. And so, Tracer zips in and it's like, oh, Monkey's half. Focus Monkey. And then you kill Monkey. Okay, what's next? Stabilize inside the point. I don't know, whatever, in this little hole, which also contests the point. And wait out Supercharger. That might be your shot caller's next plan. And then to coordinate with that plan, you would be stabilizing, and you'd probably be primaling at this point, so you'd probably be knocking Arisa or whoever out from the shield, and as you did that, you would be calling your target as to who would be vulnerable from your ult, knocking them away, and then ideally your DPS would be capitalizing on those opportunities too. So
Clear as day now.
I mean, it's a lot easier said than done. Like, you can watch
I guess I'll
like it never becomes easy, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because I do it for our team, And the better your opponents get, the harder it is to actually come up with plans that work.
Right.
Because they're expecting different things than what you might be used to. It's like it never gets easy, and it is very difficult unless you're probably a professional Overwatch player to know, like, undoubtedly what exactly you should be doing. But having a plan or a target that you should all be focusing is better than not having a plan or a target that you should be focusing.
We should not have tried to dive that map.
But like when I target call for my team
There's
and I'm
nothing to
screaming
dive.
stuff to focus, like it's hard to know.
Kept
It's like,
running
is
the
this the right
focus.
target? I don't fucking know,
Yeah,
but
I couldn't
please
get
kill
any
it with me.
scores on because shields
Right.
were just too much.
Yeah.
Alright.
New
Now it's
map,
library.
new opportunity.
University. Whatever. A place with learning. And a hole in the middle.
Let's do Ryan Zarya.
So you guys have 15-ish seconds before you get up there where you can be talking about what exactly you want to be doing as Ryan Zarya.
I agree. I think discords are hard.
Yeah.
So you guys have a junk and you have an ash. So there are two ways that you could probably play this. As Ryan Zarya, you could say, okay, we're going to go right, we're going to go interior, and we're going to set up kind of inside that room on the right side of the point. And
yes.
another thing, what?
No, I was gonna say sometimes I do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's fine. But it's better than not saying anything. And then there's also the high ground over here that overlooks the point. And your ash would be useful up there. So you can decide if you want to play to your Junkrat or if you want to play to your ash and how you want to get them set up.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's too many shields for me to get any good discourse on.
Okay.
Okay, speed boosting?
We're gonna go right side in case they have fire again.
Okay, that's not bad. You guys don't really have anything to
Yeah.
deal with the fire directly.
The speed boost?
I think we rely on our ash to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speed?
I was thinking tank-wise. I
Oh,
don't know
yeah,
why.
yeah.
I'm so used to playing goats that I'm always just like, is there a diva to deal with Pharah?
Oh no. Okay,
whatever.
you have nothing.
Right.
Gotcha.
Okay. No. Ash is good in this instance.
Yeah.
And you really just want to coordinate like when she can poke and when she can't poke in this
Yeah.
specific instance. So it looks like they had the Reaper again. And one thing I would say is that like you guys had the at least spoken plan to kind of go right because they have a Pharah.
And then we didn't hold it.
And then what has happened is you guys have gone through the right room, but then immediately come to point anyway.
Right.
Which
Then why ever take the right room?
why take the right room when you could have just gone straight to point and probably already been up in their faces. But this is just another point is that you already have one person dead and you're already half health and their monkey and Reaper are already on the right side pressuring you. You don't necessarily know what their comp is entirely, and you still have 11 seconds on the point. So you could have holed up in the right room or wherever you're going to set up and like waited patiently and pushed out any threat that came in to like really figure out what it is you wanted to try to accomplish.
Back up.
But it looks like in both of these fights, well, your Junkrat got a good pick on their monkey. Both of these fights you could have just given up the point like before it was even a thing.
We need an answer to the far.
There's a Reaper behind us.
Okay, focusing Reaper. No Wraith. Anna's in this room also.
There's a Moira on my ass. I died.
Focus right
So
side.
they already have possession of the point. I think you guys are still down 2, now 3, now 4.
Did not mean to push that far, but I did. I basically like
Monkey's on fire.
I told Valkyrie to push in right side, and she did that.
And then switch
Mhm.
And
I think it's gonna help.
Yeah.
could have been
So
more
in this
explicit
instance-
about not committing. Focus the monkey, please.
It's tough in this instance because so our team has a lot of problems. Like we're really good at running ball 3 DPS. We're really bad about playing against ball 3 DPS because they are the comps where they try to surround you and it's like, who am I supposed to focus? What am I supposed to do? Well, like all these threats are around me and I don't quite understand like what's going on or who to deal with or like what's priority, and it's confusing, and this is where comms will really help you out. But also just like making sure that all your ducks are in a row in your back line and that you guys are calling important information. So like in that previous fight, if you guys had
The left
set
side?
up,
Yeah.
oh, I thought you were gonna look at it. If you guys had set up kind of in the interior, not too far in, maybe in the right room, maybe not in the right room, and just kind of waited, like then the Reaper wouldn't have gotten behind you, and the Pharah wouldn't have flown right next to you and taken angles on you, because you would have been able to pressure her out with your Ash safely behind shield, or your tanks rushing down the Reaper or whatever. And so you just really got to make sure that the space that you want to take control of, like you can control. Whereas when you went onto point and they'd already set up, like they could already take angles on you. So the goal with comps that have a lot of threats coming from different angles is to try to limit the number of angles that they can come at you from.
So like trying to fight in here, right? Like this is not the best because they have this angle. They technically have this angle out here if the Pharah pokes. They
Mhm.
have this angle, this far left angle. Technically like
Right.
2 different angles here. So like this room is not the best place to like just hunker down and wait
Right.
for
No,
the
no, no, no.
team. We
So
should
you
just
should,
back up.
yeah. Since you have a Lucio, you want to regroup behind where you're at right now,
Great line of
Should
sight on
have
that
because
one.
you guys are already down and have been for a while now.
Yep. We're hella staggered.
Yep.
Reaper was behind
Let's
you
go
with the
back.
monkey.
Yeah, I had no idea that Reaper was behind me.
Yeah.
And so something you can do in instances like this, especially if you're going to run around Zarya, is kind of recognizing like in what areas do they have multiple ways to approach from. So as you mentioned, you drew all these lines. Like if you are in this main lobby room, there's kind of 4 different ways that they could poke you, and as soon as you go one way or the other, then them poking you from those directions becomes them completely surrounding you from those directions. But if you think about the map's geometry as a whole, like there's a hard side here that only Pharah can go beyond the boundary, and there's a hard side here that you can go in the interior. So if you all group up with Lucio speed boost in an area where you can't be flanked and surrounded, you could just hug the right wall and
Yeah.
go all the way through the interior, and you would know for a fact that there's no one on your right side because you can't go over there.
Right.
So instead of trying to cut through these main chokes, since this seems like a flank heavy opponent,
Yeah.
you could just go and take the right side, and when the Reaper shows up, just pressure him out or kill him.
Right.
And their Arisa is just sitting on the point, peppering these main chokes, because that's exactly where she's expecting you to come from. But with Lucio's speed boost, you could get a safe approach from the right side here, because Farah's only going to have one angle to shoot at you, because she's going to be flying up top left, where she always is. And you guys could hug the right wall, deal with Reaper when he gets there, deal with Monkey when he gets there, and then speed boost around and probably kill their Arisa and their supports.
Right, just from their backside though. We should go all the way around to their backside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a plan. And it would be a good plan in this case, because the only threat that would really threaten you in there is the Reaper. And you guys could kill him as a full stack of 6. Like, he wouldn't be that scary with a shield and a Zarya bubble and Lucio boops to keep him out of range and all that. So yeah, that's how you play around the Pharah here. You don't necessarily need the Ashe. If you are going to play the Ashe, then as a team you need to decide where you want your Ashe to be so that she can then pressure her and kill her quickly, and when you are going to give her that opportunity. So, the quick play, the solo queue mentality is just like, why isn't Ashe dealing with the Pharah? Well, the problem is that, that DPS that's trying to deal with a Pharah can also die to 2 Pharah rockets or to the Reaper or to the Monkey that's jumping in. Like, there's a lot of other factors. So you as a team need to take that as like your responsibility of, we're going to get her up top left, and we're going to do an engagement that is then going to make the Pharah choose to shoot at us or shoot at her. And while that engagement is happening, she will have the opportunity to shoot at the Pharah.
In that situation then, so should we split the group at 5-1 and like 5 of us go this way and then let the Ashe like wait and like kind of as we push and kind of force them to pivot, have her go behind?
So that is one way that you could do it, and it could work that way. And it really just depends on how observant you think your opponents are.
Okay.
or what you've done in the past. So like if you've already done that and your opponents are really good, like Masters GM people, then they might just expect that to happen again, and the monkey's just gonna go find the ash and kill
Right,
her.
so it would only work once though. What you're saying?
I mean, for you guys, it might work over and over and over again. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
And even at Masters and GM, it might work over and over and over again, because even if people on the opposing team like notice that it's happening, they might not make it explicit that it's happening to the characters that could actually deal with it. So like, maybe their Zenyatta notices that that's what happened, but he doesn't make it explicit to his monkey that that's what happened, and hasn't made that shot call before the fight happens, like, hey, last time their ass just took an angle on the right, monkey, you should go zone that space out. Then you would not get away with it, and you would be punished, and you would have a severe disadvantage in the fight.
Yeah.
But part of Overwatch is also just trying to make your opponents respect you and get away with things that are like high value, high damage, but risky. And if your opponents let you get away with those things, keep doing it, because that's how you're gonna win.
Right.
But as you get better and your opponents get better, the things that are more risky and high value become less optimal, because you'll get punished for them more and more often.
Right.
But until they make you respect them in that regard, then it's a perfectly fine plan.
Sure.
But like if you did it once and it didn't work, or you did it once and you think your opponents are smart, like, don't do it again. But again, going back to the main theme of having a plan is better than not having a plan.
Right.
So if that's the plan that you want to have, is that, all right, Ash, you hang back. We're gonna engage from the right side, and when we get into this room, and you see the fire rockets coming in to shoot at us, take the high ground on the left side, and you'll get like 2 or 3 free shots on her before she even realizes what you're doing. And if you're good enough, the Ash would kill a Pharah in that instance. Like 2 or 3 shots should be enough. But then, that's also what you have to consider, and it's difficult to do so on the spot, is factoring in like individual mechanical skill with the plans that you're trying to develop. So like if your Ash isn't good enough to seal the Pharah off in 2 or 3 shots in that instance, then the Pharah probably just turns around and kills your Ash, and you're at a disadvantage again.
Right.
So it's hard to know what you can and can't get away with, and you'll learn more as you play as a team over time. But I think at least going right and challenging and pressuring the monkey and the Reaper as they jump you, and then probably flanking around to kill the Orisa, is a good plan here. And I don't think Pharah, unless you are really slow and dirtled in dangerous areas, would be able to do anything about any of that.
I almost promise you this. That doesn't.
I should probably
But
wait. They don't wait. How many of you guys are pushing in?
Reaper.
There's a Reaper on the left side.
He's definitely killable still.
Okay, I'm just gonna ult
Any of
here.
you go?
He's dead.
Okay, looks like you guys
I'm
got
pushing
him.
in
That's
on the
good.
right.
We'll engage with B.
You're on
3,
point.
2, 1,
Go.
go.
Okay, so you said right, so Junkrat should have come with you,
Uh-huh.
unless there was an explicit plan that
Nope.
if you expected them to stay right here for some reason, like they're gonna hard hold there, then you can always make the plan of like, we're gonna go in right side and engage, and Junkrat, you should take an off angle. That would be perfectly fine if you expected this is where they're actually gonna, because it's always good to have surrounded your opponents. But Junkrat being back here and then getting pressured out by the Pharah and then having to take his time to regroup with you probably isn't worth it in the end, because they're not just going to stay right there. As soon as they're starting to get pressured, they're just going to back up, and then Junkrat's kind of like awkwardly left out, and he can't really come into this area because he'll just get killed by Pharah.
I also feel like the beat is a little early here, because they're not engaging
Yes.
on us.
So
we could have reserved that for a few more seconds.
Yeah, and I guess just to make it concrete, if we look at it, it gives you 1,000 extra health, and we'll see kind of like how much is left when the fight actually starts happening.
Going
Yeah.
forward?
So this is probably about the point where fight is definitely happening, so that beat realistically gave each of your teammates maybe less than 100 health extra.
Yeah.
Because it's decaying rapidly at this point when the fight is actually happening.
Right. We're gonna end up having to burn a lot of ults here. I've apparently already used it.
Yeah, you're going in for the Earth Shatter, the raised hammer, which I would say could be good, but you don't know right now whether or not Arisa is used to fortify.
She
I
has
don't.
definitely not used it. I am definitely a little desperate right now. I think that I need to communicate better to my Lucio that like I read that I think at the time as an early beat, and that uh, pushes me into panic mode as a tank because I'm trying to get maximum value, and I make
Mhm.
more mistakes when I'm concerned
Okay.
about maximizing someone else's ult.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways you could approach this. You guys know their Reaper is dead, so their Pharah is their main source of damage right now. So let's go back here and kind of look at what happened again and what we could do. So the Reaper is down, and we know that Pharah is their main source of damage. I haven't been keeping track. I don't really know what their support line looks like or where they are.
They have a
I
Moira.
assume
Moira is
there's a.
back here, and I think I honestly am guessing. I think they have an Anna.
Okay. So I think their Ana is probably between these two columns back here on the
Yeah.
point.
I think
So this
Moira's
is
back there too. They've all kind of recessed back in there once we killed the Reaper and started pushing this way.
yeah. So they know you're coming. So we know that Monkey is right here. Aris is right here. Farah's right here. There's support back here, and maybe Moira is somewhere between the point and that area also. So this is kind of where they're set up. So you look at this and you think about, where is good for us here? Where is dangerous for them? What can we do to capitalize on this opportunity? And their Farah is egregiously out of position here.
Yeah, she should be up
And
here, right?
yeah, she should be playing this column back here or playing the column back on the far right
Okay.
or poking from these channels right here.
Okay.
But like, in a high mechanics, high skill setting, like let's just say your Ash rounds this corner right now, that far is dead.
Right.
um anyway, something you could do here because you have Earth Shatter. I wasn't paying attention the last time you pressed tab, so I don't know what other ults you have online to work with, but you also have the beat. Farah, like I said, she's out of position. If you guys right here had come and just stood in front of their tank line and you jiggled this wall corner right here, because their monkey is also back here, and just swung your hammer until you guys were ready to go in, you probably could have gotten Fortify out of this Orisa.
Yeah.
And then that's the important cooldown that
And
you
then
should
I
be
can
thinking
safely
about right now.
shatter. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a second one. There's actually three that you need to be tracking right now. You need to be tracking Fortify. You need to be thinking about Orisa Shield. You also need to be thinking about Monkey Bubble. Because all three of those things could negate your Earth Shatter effectively.
Gotcha.
So I guarantee you, if you had run up to this choke point and flickered your shield and played the corner and swung your hammer, your Ash probably could have picked the Pharah, and if not, the Pharah would have backed up. Orisa probably would have used Fortify, and with the Junkrat spam damage, that shield would have been broken, and Monkey would have used his bubble, and you probably could have broken that too. And you guys aren't really in a rush here because you know the Reaper's dead, so he's not going to come around the right side and just fuck you up. So you know where they all are, and you can kind of figure out where they're all gonna be going. So this choke is actually a good place for you guys to fight right now. And it's a good place for you guys to take a sustained fight so that you can get key abilities out. And people who are info calling should be tracking those abilities. So Monkey no Bubble, because Bubble is an important ability that should be tracked. And Orisa no Fortify are things that should be stated. And once those things are out, your Shadow should probably get 2 here or 1. But it's hard to tell. Another way that you guys could do this, since you guys want to beat aggressively anyway, is that you'll note that Monkey is over here when you push in, and you don't know that right now, but you will figure it out pretty shortly. Arisa is going to actually retreat this way, and so we'll see this. So as you come up here, okay, you do see the monkey here actually.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as you see the monkey, and Farah has now realized like, oh shit, I better like probably back out of here. You, if your Junkrat was with you especially, but even without Junkrat probably could have accomplished this. There's nothing saving Monkey right now. Nothing at all. And he retreats around this wall right here. And so you could just say, as the main tank, you know the Reaper's down. Push in and hard engage on Monkey.
Okay.
And then you probably guys could have secured the kill here. So you come in and you go for a reset. Monkey's like, oh shit, I'm in trouble. But
Yeah.
instead he gets away because he kind of just like goes over there.
Right.
Oh, and you do get the Orisa. I'm actually surprised. She probably either couldn't time it or mistimed her bubble. But it also looks like because the beat was early, you've taken half your health in fire rockets, I presume.
Reese's down.
Careful with the fire ult.
Okay. And that's something also that I didn't bring up yet because I wanted it to be a surprise, and I assumed it would be a surprise, is that no one is ult tracking for the opponent. You guys are not developing any plans for what you're going to do about them.
Yeah.
No bubbles.
Solid
Nice
targets.
fire.
Solid targets.
Heaven. Or fucking Winston, the other guy. Whatever the fuck his name is.
Okay.
Nice.
But you guys win that fight anyway, because, as I said, I had a bunch of little minor details that would make a difference at higher ranks. But what that fight boiled down to effectively is you had ults that you used to create advantage. You also went in because you recognized that they were at disadvantage. So all of that is fine. Like the Reaper's down. We don't have to worry about that. Fire Barrage wasn't enough to bring it back to them because we invested Valk and Tire and Beat and Shatter. And that's just, you used a lot of ults, but you won the fight at least. But you created your advantages by chasing down the Reaper. I guess I should say you took the advantages they gave you because that Reaper was just giving it to you. But
Yeah.
Pushing forward.
We need to push forward.
against better and better opponents, you'll have to start creating your own advantages instead of just taking advantage of the mistakes that are made. And what that really looks like is those like half second, like we're pushing in engagements and like really making the right target calls and opportunities.
Top right.
Careful with the monkey. I think he's gonna.
Alright. Just going down.
The DPS.
Reloading.
Focus the far up.
Reloading.
Okay.
So you guys still haven't ashed at this point, right?
Pulling back.
Oh no.
Fucking really.
Okay, so that's another thing is that I mentioned earlier is that there are two things that you can kind of do, but a lot of it just really comes back to always having in your head what characters they have and keeping track of them, because they've had a Reaper and then somehow without anyone saying anything, he gets into the middle of your team and kills
He
all of
probably did this. He went that way and then he came up this way.
you. Okay.
Because he like respawned that his team was dead. So if I was him, I would have gone underneath.
Oh no.
But because he comes in and then he pushes too far, I think. Focus the far up.
Reloading.
Okay. Pulling back.
Barrier in one.
Pulling back.
Oh
He moves this way with his initial momentum.
no.
Fucking really.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right.
Oh well. Make sure I die on point. Yep.
Good stall.
I'm just kind of thinking about this whole thing as a. Okay, so for this, I'm trying to see where everybody is set up here. So you guys have the monkey kill.
We need to push forward.
Since it's a control point and you know that they have characters that are good at close range, and it seems like the breadth of your defense or the depth of your defense is a ton, I probably wouldn't push forward here.
I was just thinking, what if we had instead tried to hold the room on the right side? So like, obviously not having this brainwave match, but at least then, if we're on the right side and we get an indication that someone's on the point, we have some idea of who it might be based on who's not in front of us, and who would have respawned first. But then also, like, we just know that it's probably just one person on the point. And then we can pivot and turn around and we can use the walls of this room to kind of like use as a shield, and then we can just pivot all the way back and around to regain like a front view of what's going on.
I mean, that might be fine.
Okay.
I would in this instance. So let's see. There's multiple ways they can come in here, right? So like Reaper could go underneath. There's this door. And there's this door. But ultimately, the place they want to get to is the point right here, because they want to recontest it. So this is again where you want to be shot calling, and you want to figure out where is good for you to make this engagement, and be trying to weigh the risks and benefits of like different places to engage and different ways to engage. So like again, I have no idea, and I'm not sure anyone does really, like what resources you have left or what resources your opponents might have. So I know they use Reaper ult in the ensuing fight, and I know they use Supercharger. I don't know if any of you guys know that they're gonna do that,
Right.
which is kind of problematic in and of itself. But just in general, because they have a Reaper, like these areas are pretty good for Reaper because you can always wraith back to safety. And you can also play around these little half corner walls or whatever. And then they also have a Pharah who is notably or notoriously bad at trying to like take space by herself, who is gonna have to fly in this open area to actually put any pressure on you also.
Right.
So I might poke up here for a few seconds just to see like the condition of their spawns, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
because Reaper's the only character that's gonna really punish you for that. Like if somehow he managed to get behind you, he's the only one that'd be able to kill you fast enough before you could just walk back to point.
Yeah.
Because the Orisa is probably not going to do that, even if she pulls you, and the monkey's definitely not going to kill you before you could just walk back to point. So that seems pretty safe. So I'd probably walk up here, and you'll see their Orisa, and you'll see their Pharah somewhere up here, and then you'll probably see their monkey somewhere in here too, and their supports obviously with the Orisa.
Can you hold on a second?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. And if you had done that, maybe even a little sooner, because I think the Pharah actually gets in here, which she should die for, by the way. But she ends up not. If you had done that and been watching and been thinking about the things that you need to be aware of, so if like your ult tracker or your target caller was like, they've definitely got Reaper ult, that's a very high impact ult, but it's also one that could be easily negated. So that is, that should be like a star or a light should go off in everyone's head of just like, this could completely destroy us, but it's also easy to deal with. So let's, do that, because why not? Like if you can stop something that would kill all of you relatively easily, then like let's plan to do that, or like let's set up to do that. It's a bit harder to stop things like Genji Blade or other things like that, right? But it's like a high value, low risk, even though risk isn't the right word for it, but you kind of get what I'm trying to say. Easy to deal with, but high value to deal with if you're sleeping on Reaper. Thing that you should be tracking. So if you got up here and looked, or the person that's already up here had actually been paying attention, you would have noticed that the Reaper probably isn't with them right now.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Which means he's somewhere. And in general, this positioning is probably just a little too aggressive. If instead you play the choke as Rhine, and you have your Junkrat or your Ashe on the high ground back here, and you have your supports behind you on the point. So maybe you have Junkrat on the right over here, and you have Ashe on the left over here on high ground, and you have your supports in the back here, and then you as Ryan are jiggling these corners and playing this choke. That is a much broader and a much deeper defensive setup than kind of being right here, and then kind of all grouping up behind your Reinhardt shield right here, which is what ends up happening. And then Reaper kills all of you. But if you have Junkrat in the right room, he has a view over the point. If you have Ashe on the high ground, she would have seen Reaper coming in. She also gets a good angle on Pharah when Pharah tries to fly in.
Without having to set up here in the middle of all the damage.
Right. It also gives your supports a safe place to fly to, and they should also be consciously looking to see
Yeah.
if there's anyone on the flanks. You're probably not going to expect Fire to flank, but you should all be tracking Reaper's position because he's a character that's easy to kite and easy to mitigate as long as you are being proactive about it. But once he's in your team and you don't have a stun, then it's already too late.
Fair point.
Yeah. So that's what lost you this point. But just as like a general thing, it's always good to have a broad like defensive depth because Ash has mobility tools that she can use to get back to her team, and Junkrat has mobility tools he can use to get back to his team. Neither of those positions are dangerous, even though you're not just right behind your Reinhardt shield. But you don't always have to be just right behind your Reinhardt shield. Reinhardt's purpose in this case is just to say like, hey, you're not getting on the point the main way because I have my DPS backing me up on both sides, and I also have my supports backing me up. Like, I might not kill you outright in this choke, but you also can't come in and kill me and actually get on the point because if you do, my entire team is going to punish you.
Also, like if I play like on this side of the wall, then it's so much easier for me to use my charge without dying.
Mm-hmm.
Like charging that way is just fucking dumb, and I already
Yeah.
know that, right?
Yep. But why is that?
Well, because all of the walls are so far back there. They're just like I'd have to go all the way over there and overcommit my whole team to the space that we don't need in order to secure the point.
Right, exactly. There's no reason to be fighting them unless you're doing a hard push for cleanup and ult charge,
Yeah.
or you're running dive of some sort and there's a high value target back there. There's no reason to go past those doors.
If I were running like an Orisa, I feel like an initial poke here would be okay as long as it was non-committal and it immediately, like as they're pushing in, results in me going to the opposite end of the point.
Yeah, but so it depends on what they're running. If they are running a Lucio,
then that's a bad idea because then they'll overtake me and I won't even necessarily have my cooldowns.
Right, because like if you held back here, as soon as they saw you pulling back, they would just speed boost in, and then your DPS would not have the chance to get that nice breadth of defense like I was talking about. So they'd probably also be in a frenzied state to back up, and they'd just be right clumped up with you again.
Okay.
Which is kind of what happens here.
Yeah.
Is that you guys are all poking.
Yeah, because the Ash is right here, Junk is up here, and then once we realize we're being pushed too far, it's like we just kind of die right here.
Right. You group up, which is exactly what the Reaper wants.
Yeah.
And then you all die to him.
Yeah.
But the reason that it's safer to charge right here is one, it's a shorter charge distance, but two, like if you set up your defense properly, you should all be thinking about like what areas are we actually securing? If your Ash is up here and your Junkrat's over here and your supports are in the back, making sure that no one is actually coming from the flank and they'd call it if there were, then that whole area is safe 100%. And your charge on point isn't going to get you punished because there's no one on point to kill you here.
Mm-hmm.
And if there were, all of your DPS would be killing them. So yeah, you don't. The point is especially when you're running DPS and you're not just running goats, you don't all have to be behind the Rhine shield. And it's actually good in this instance when they have a Reaper and they have a Pharah to have this nice deep defense from multiple angles. And if you think about that, then as the Reinhardt there, like you could start doing exactly what they've been doing to you the whole game, which is they are gonna probably mindlessly push in with their core through choke. You are gonna hold this as Reinhardt until you can't anymore. Your shield's probably half, or your health starts getting low. You're gonna back up to your side of the point, and so that's your second holding point. So you got all this space that you can retreat to safely. The entire time the enemy team is pushing up here, they're gonna start to get surrounded by your DPS on both sides, which is exactly what they've been doing to you all game. So they've been forming these nice, deep defensive structures, even though they could probably be improved, with their Reaper on far flanks and their Pharah on separate angles that you guys push into and get surrounded each time. But you could be doing the exact same thing to it.
Right.
Orisa no shield.
Nice pick.
Go Focus the Pharah, top right.
Careful with
So, one reason I disagree with this is that your shield's at 205.
Yeah, this is like
Uh,
really misguided.
And for what value, I guess.
Nothing.
So,
Because like
do you-
Pharah is safely like up here. Like
Yeah.
I can't fucking do anything. Yeah, I'm not thinking here.
So if we'd played the point instead, you would still have a full
Yeah.
shield, and you'd be making them actually work to take these resources from you instead of just
Yeah.
giving them to them.
with them. I think he's gonna.
Alright, Just going down.
The DPS.
Reloading.
It's just so
Focus the Pharah.
frustrated. Jeez.
Reloading.
Anytime you see me swinging at the air,
Oh no.
Fucking really.
So if you guys, I don't know, if you had shield and she had bubbles, then you probably could have saved half your team in that one instance.
Yeah.
And they are either being really observant or are definitely communicating, because as soon as Reaper ults, Monkey's like secure and
Yeah,
jumps in with them.
dunk,
So,
yeah.
so they're communicating and you guys are not.
Oh well. Make sure I die on point. Yep.
I don't think that we get this back.
I'm gonna have the Valk again.
Okay,
We have
need to go
just
right.
enough time.
I have I'm gonna have Graviton in a second.
I don't
grab
call
one.
left side.
I thought you said right side.
I didn't actually call left side.
3, 2, 1, Graviton.
Do it.
What am I doing here? I don't know. This is just bad.
Okay, let's back up a second. Okay, so again, there's no plan.
have,
Someone has said Graviton, but so much more could be said with the Graviton. No one has chosen a side that you guys are going to engage on again. So again, right side's probably good, even though there's a few people poking over there right now. Your team is strong on the interior with your Junkrat, with Ash's
I know,
Dynamite, with
yeah.
your Ryan Zara. So right side would be fine again. And even if, you chose one right side some other time in this fight and it didn't work out, like just because it doesn't work out doesn't mean that it's not a good option. And it's really a percentage game. And right side is probabilistically the best place for you guys to go right now, even though there's the Pharah. And you need to hole up in the right side, and then you need to, as a team, make sure everyone's on the same page, give a countdown, pick a target,
Right.
and rush out onto the point and try to deal with that target before
Yeah.
Pharah can kill you.
Yeah.
Because if you slowly push out onto the point from the right side and just wait for something to happen, Pharah's going to kill you. So you have to make a decision, and you got to do it quickly once you decide to leave the safety of the right room. But the right room gives you so a lot of Overwatch is just, having options. The right room gives you the options that you want because you're close to the point, which is where they're going to be, and you can let your shield recharge and all that junk. And then you could back out, you could flank around them, you can go to them, and you could do it very quickly. And so it's giving you a lot of options, and it's letting you make decisions while you're sitting in there. And because you'll be able to engage on them so quickly, it is going to make your opponents have fewer options, which is always what you want to try to be doing. Because they're not going to have probably predetermined places to retreat to safety to.
Right.
And so as you push them at any rank, less so at higher ranks, but you'll find that you push into them and you apply some form of pressure. Unless they're a professional team, they might back up in different directions, and that's when it's the target caller's job.
Yeah. Eat them alive.
Yeah, the target caller says, hey, fuck this person. And as Reinhardt, it might not always mean that you need to swing on that person. It might mean that as they go in different directions, you call a target and you block the other target.
Right.
So, like, for example, if they have an Orisa and they have an Ana, and the Ana goes a different direction,
Yeah,
you might
I got
call
a
Orisa.
shield
You
so
could
that she can't.
Purple, you guys.
Yeah, well, and to deny her healing that way.
Yep. And so your team will, swarm Orisa and kill her, but you won't necessarily take part in that. But your team has to trust your call instead of your action, because the solo queue mentality is like, just focus whatever, this other person is focusing and we'll get the kill. But in more complicated situations, that's not always the case.
Right.
So you guys don't come up with a plan, and you haven't been tracking their ults still. you guys info call what ults you do have, but you don't come up with a plan for them.
Right. We're just
Uh,
panicking. We're like looking at this number and we're all just like, get there ASAP because we need
Yeah.
to do something.
So like after that last fight ended, whoever's ult tracking should get, like tell you they've got this ult, this ult, this ult, this ult. Okay. Shot caller says, we're gonna go right side. We're gonna wait for Lucio's speed boost. We're gonna speed onto Orisa as fast as we can. We're gonna see what they do. I'll call a target after that, and let's all focus that target. If you see more than 2 people grouped up, let's get a fat grab.
Yeah.
And that plan is 10,000 times better than what's going on, and it's
Right,
not
yeah,
even
yeah,
that
yeah.
complicated.
Right. I know it's. But in this moment, I'm upset.
No, and that's fine.
Graviton.
I mean,
But
it's
it lets
not.
it lets
What
it
is
lets
that? Stop.
well, when you were coming in, you saw people poking over
I
here on the
did, because
sides.
right now I don't see fucking diddly shit.
Right here,
Just
right
enough time.
there's 2 people poking
There's
over
a
there.
Farah, okay,
There's a
and
Farah and a Moira.
Moira, and it is not
I'm gonna
reasonable.
Graviton.
So you
It is
thought
not
you would
reasonable
do
to do
something.
that. That is
No.
dumb.
So you wasted an ability.
Yes. I'm now 2
but-
abilities down.
I mean, that's fine. The charge you needed to get back, and fire strike. You know,
I didn't
whatever.
need to fire strike.
You,
I should have
you
saved
could
it.
have saved it,
But I
that-
should have saved it for
probably-
the Orisa, who's so much easier to hit.
And now let's imagine that you guys actually took the time to group up properly, and maybe you still have your Lucio speed boost. This Ana is
Is-
fucking toast. But
Yeah.
you guys are so frenzied that you don't have any of your abilities up because you've expended all of them to get here, that she's
Yeah.
just gonna walk away safely probably.
Please said right side.
She just disrespected the shit out of you.
Yeah, she did.
2, 1, Graviton. Do it.
And it's like, grab where? I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
it's like,
You also turn around with your shield when the monkey jumps in.
Please said
yeah.
right side. 3,
Which is
2,
like,
1,
yeah,
Graviton.
super useful for the Orisa shooting my ass.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Do it.
And then
So-
I drop it when I do face her when she's shooting at me.
hmm
Yeah.
So, I mean, for you specifically, if you hadn't turned around, if you watched your health while you were doing that, you were receiving healing from the Valkyrie. And your health doesn't change much while you're spinning around because you're getting healed and damaged the same amount, but your health probably would have gone up to about 300
Yeah.
if you hadn't spun around like that, and you could have probably safely fire striked the Graviton.
Right.
But it's also kind of recognizing what resources you had available to go into the Graviton. So
Right.
like the kills in the Graviton get cleaned up anyway
Right.
because your DPS are still alive, so you could trust them to clean that up probably.
And we have a Bob.
Oh, I didn't hear the Bob come out.
Yeah. I
Um,
didn't either at first.
So let's go back to this again, and let's imagine that we have no ultimates, and that we actually had a plan to like go left side and speed or something. So your
Uh-huh.
Lucio's back here somewhere because I can see his aura, but it's
Yeah.
not hitting you right now. So let's imagine you guys grouped up better,
I have Graviton.
and then you look on the point to see what's going on because you still have 7% left. You don't need to do anything crazy right now. And then you look at it and you're like, oh shit, there's an Ana, and she purples you. In a good team situation, like this purple would mean that you are dead now.
Yep.
If you continue to push on to this point, because there's
Yep.
going to be, at the Masters GM level, there's going to be something here. She's going to be screaming at the top of her lungs, like, Ride's purple, and you're going to get melted.
Right.
So you still got 7%. So in this instance, I would just like accept the purple and be like, damn, she just like fucking dunked on me.
And get the fuck
And
back.
probably up
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
But that's just kind of in a vacuum, so you'll notice that you get bubbled here.
Yeah.
Now you're not purple anymore, so everything's hunky dory. If you guys were grouped up properly, and you were calling this Ana at the top of your lungs, you probably would have killed her. So that's a dead Ana there. And if you guys are still being calm and collected, someone should now be screaming that there's a monkey on me in the back because he has now just jumped into the back.
Right. It's not
And your
self-evident to me yet.
No. And that's fine because it's your job to push forward, maybe a little more cautiously than here. But like they've got 2 sources of unblockable damage on your team because Monkey's back here and Moira's back here. So you can choose as a Reinhardt to continue shielding the Orisa damage, which is a valid option because Ana's still alive, so you probably want to shield the healing from Ana too. So I'd
Yeah.
probably point my shield at these two
Just hold it
in
up.
this instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Moira and Monkey aren't doing anything
Right.
that you can interact with.
Right.
Their Pharah is somewhere, and do they still have a Reaper alive? I wasn't paying attention.
Yes. I don't know where he is though.
Yeah, no one does, and that's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
So, in the worst case scenario, you could have been dead like 3 seconds ago because as soon as you were purple, the Reaper could have been in your team,
Right.
and then this would already be over, and we wouldn't talk about the rest of maximizing the effect of this because like based on the events that have already happened, you guys could have already lost this.
Yeah.
But with proper target calling, you guys could have gotten the Ana here without any ultimates. And then you push forward. And then as soon as Monkey jumps in the back, if someone screams Monkey, you can block these 3 sources of damage now, and your team can get the kill on that Monkey. And so that's 2 picks that you guys could have capitalized on without investing anything except Valkyrie at this point. But you guys are also, it's good, I guess, in a way. You guys are also on trying to get your Graviton plan executed. So you're just letting the Monkey do whatever he wants. If this was a Reaper instead of a Monkey, then you guys would be toast.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you guys, someone said, I have Grav, which then I guess is an implied plan, and that's what you guys are trying to play toward right now, and that's fine. But it could have been a lot cleaner.
But it's also like, but I think that in retrospect, it's not the strongest plan to rely on because like they have a Monkey who's not playing grouped, they have a Moira who's not playing grouped, they have an Ana and an Orisa who are grouped most of the time. The Orisa just is not grabbable most of the time because she just fortifies and walks away.
Right.
So like,
and the Reaper isn't really either.
Right, exactly. So like really Grav is not a great plan because it's pretty much guaranteed a solo Grav unless they fuck up. Yeah, because like even the Moira, if the Moira was here, Moira's also with like a reset, just fades the fuck out. So
yeah. So if you take it patiently, your shield is extremely healthy still. And if you'd taken it patiently and held this corner, or just held, I mean, you could hold this corner and like come back and forth around it, over and over and over again to keep the point alive with your shield, or you can just kind of like hold this side of the point and give your team the opportunity to like break their shield or focus their Pharah or focus their Moira or deal with the Monkey in the back line. Like, there's no reason that you guys have to go balls to the wall right now.
Yeah.
Or 3 seconds ago, for that matter. Because there's nothing like, if there were a Reaper in your backline, you would need to deal with that. And the Monkey in the backline, like, you're gonna need to deal with that. And you could deal with that if you were more calm and patient and just like set up on the point.
Yeah.
But it's kind of recklessly charging in here when you don't have a plan and you don't have target calls to make sure that that charge is going to mean something in like a very small time span of 2 or 3 seconds. That ends up costing you a lot of these because then because it takes so long for you guys to actually accomplish something because you don't have the right abilities or you don't have the right target focus, they just surround you, and before you can react to that because you're so focused on moving forward, it's too late.
Right.
So, I mean, just in general, think of it like as a unit, you're pretty safe until your shield's broken. It's not broken, so you have a lot of opportunity to like suss things out. You guys had roughly 10% to like figure out what you're doing, just like calmly wait for the Monkey to jump in and punish him, or scope the Reaper out so you know roughly where you should be holding, stuff like that. But the Ana and the Monkey, in my opinion, you guys should have just hard committed on both of them in this instance. But you also should have been keeping track of the Reaper wherever he is, because I have no idea where he is.
The Grav here would have been better than the Grav over there.
Yeah.
I should have called the Grav here. If nothing else, grab the Ana before she gets behind the shield. That would have been better.
Yeah, and you think about Orisa using Fortify to get out of the Grav. In my opinion, that's fine because that means that with the comp that you have and with their Pharah, who couldn't really stop you in the first place, you're just gonna keep pushing forward and you're gonna
Yeah.
kill the Orisa because she
Yeah, for
doesn't have
sure.
Fortify after that.
Yeah, for sure.
So like if you launched Grab right here and you would have gotten the Ana and she would have fortified out of it. But Monkey
Abandon her Anna.
yeah, and Monkey probably would have gotten picked up in it too. So
Yeah.
you would have secured their main healer and their Monkey, and Orisa would be fortifyless. You would have had much more health because you would have held your shield up appropriately
Yeah, like right over fucking here. Got it.
coming into this point. Which means that right after that you could then charge the fortifyless Orisa.
Yeah.
That's another kill for you guys.
Yeah.
This whole time, Ash is hopefully targeting the things that you're targeting. And then because you have this absurd advantage that you guys have just generated, can then deal with the Pharah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, easy pickings after that. You killed half their team at that point. It's a 3v6. Yeah. You don't always have to look for the juiciest grabs.
No.
Just having 2 people down on either side makes a fight almost insurmountable as long as you're covering your bases and keeping track of important things like a Reaper.
Yeah, but we don't, and we lose this.
The grab is on.
Right, because you get the grab, but you guys were so thirsty for it that you end up losing 2 members for your 2-person grab.
Yeah.
And you guys do get Bob out too, which wasn't communicated at all. And so that could have been another plan since Bob or like Diva Bomb or any other form of ult that zones people can be used to get them to group up. So like, let's imagine that, I don't know, you guys decide that you want to try to zone them and grab them, which is a good plan. And you can use Bob as a zoning ult. And then you think about, I'm main tank, I'm going to be guiding kind of where this engagement goes. And everyone knows that zoning and grabbing is our plan. Then, you see the Ana over here, you see the Orisa, you see the Monkey. You know what your plan is. You can just push over here on the right instead of hard engaging because you have these extremely powerful tools of Bob and Grab that you're trying to set up instead of trying to do everything kind of individually.
Yeah, by throwing these ults over here and pushing over here, we're not actually gaining an advantage on either side.
No. So instead, what you could have done is, their Pharaoh is pushed too far forward. They're honest push too far forward.
Yeah.
Their Monkeys in the back line. Their Orisa's right here, or she was actually a little further up. She was kind of like right here.
Yeah, that's a fresh shield right there.
As the main tank, that you guys have plenty of time. You could have pushed to the right here. That means Orisa is probably going to rotate her shield right here. Her and Ana are going to try to hold back here. Far's over here. Monkey's back here. You know that zoning and grabbing is you're out effectively. So you throw Bob where he is right now next to you guys. He's now zoning this entire area. And that's exactly where you wanted them to get because you're playing Reinhardt and you rotated to the right, forcing them to rotate left.
Yeah.
So now Bob is pressuring them. He's going to break their shield. He's going to kill Pharah if she's still around. He's going to pressure out Monkey. They are all going to run for that Orisa shield. And then slap them with it's going to break. The Orisa shield's going to break, and you just slap them with that fat grab. And that's a clean fight. That's a 1 fight right there.
Yeah.
And if Pharah tries to do anything different, she gets killed by Bob.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no guarantee that that's how they would have played. That would be probably the correct way that they would have responded to those things, or like the panicked way that they respond to those things. But it's still a plan nonetheless, and that if you get Bob in an off angle, you can then force them to group up, and then you can continue to force them to be grouped up with a graviton.
Right.
And that is a 1 fight. But I guess you guys don't have to do everything by yourselves. Like, you don't have to be looking for the fat grab by yourself and just like hoping that the opponents are going to group up. Or like, you as a Reinhardt don't have to be going for these kills by yourself if you guys had an established plan that you're actually playing out to. It's like the win condition isn't always all 6 of us are going to try to get kills. And that's not, or I guess all 4 of us if the supports aren't working toward that objective. But the win condition can be the plan that you guys have come up with, and it's going to be a lot cleaner. So like you
No,
didn't have
that's
to
a good
take any
point,
damage.
yeah. Because I definitely think about the former more than the latter.
Yeah. So like just by as a main tank, like taking space and just being on the right side of the point and using Bob as a zoning ult and using Grav, like none of those goals is getting kills, and none of them would have had to have been each person's responsibility to feel like they failed at if you guys had just planned it ahead of time. It's like Ash wouldn't feel like she has to kill Pharah and feel, poor if she didn't. And Zarya wouldn't have to feel like she has to get a fat Grav and feel bad that you guys traded out even on the Grav. And you wouldn't feel like you have to come forward and get these kills and feel bad that you end up dying because you were being overly aggressive about it. If you guys had just zoned them out properly with a planned Bob Graviton. And then everybody would be happy that you wiped their whole team with that. So it's, I don't know, just kind of coming up with a plan that is a win condition of some sorts. And like I've mentioned before, they're pretty simple plans. Like zoning with Bob and grabbing is not complicated in the grand scheme of things, but it would afford you so much more advantage and opportunity than kind of just rushing in with 7% left and then panicking on the point.
Diana's down.
There's a
Call
Reaper
a target.
behind.
Call a target.
Monkey.
I don't even remember that.
There's a Reaper coming in behind respawn.
Focusing on Risa. Risa down.
Monkey
So someone has found the Reaper now.
on me. Fuck.
It's in the back
Okay,
line.
gotta focus the Reaper. Still. Oh, I don't have bulk anymore.
That's a good call on the Reaper, but it should have been faster. As soon as the info call for Reaper was made, you guys should have 180'd on him.
Yeah.
I need this monkey to gone.
Okay, he's dead.
Moira?
He's fine.
Monkey no jump, he's not.
That's a good info call. Monkey no jump. All priorities go to the Pharah now. She's back.
Far ult.
I love super jump.
I put monkey in the hole.
Moira's on the left side alone.
She has no ult, she has
So
no
Pharah
ult.
picked up your Junkrat. Okay, you guys finally kill her.
Reloading.
Nothing dies.
Oh,
No, you got it. You created a good opportunity with that. It was a split-second decision, but you guys got it.
They effectively push though. They only use
Okay, I'm gonna
Monkey ult and
wait on the high
Reaper
ground.
still has ult. Pharah used ult.
Watch the right side.
Teresa hasn't used ult. Anna used ult.
Yeah.
Moira hasn't
Again.
used ult.
Yeah. So just do that during the game, and
Yeah.
you guys will be in a good spot. And again, you guys learned a little faster this time, but being in that space, if you can't deny the Pharah from just flying over you, especially, isn't useful to you. Because your shield's already at half, your health is already at half.
Yeah, just making the
Okay,
same
I gotta
mistake
back up,
again.
back up. Reaper, back up on the right
Reaper,
side.
right,
No,
Reaper,
right.
right.
Okay, that's a good call. You guys tracked Reaper this time. You used his Wraith to get out, so that's good for you. You bought yourself effectively. How long is his Wraith? 8 seconds?
Yeah.
A breathing room and additional planning time that you guys should have and should utilize. He's
Moira's-
teleporting over to the left side. I don't know if you saw him,
No, I
but
shouldn't.
he's teleporting over here somewhere, which should be called. So if we back
Yeah.
up, you'll see him start to do it
Right?
right
There
there.
it is. Yeah.
Somebody should be calling that the monkey is out of position back
This is
here.
bad.
So
Reaper, back up on the right
Reaper,
side.
right.
No right, no right.
Stupid thing.
once Reaper was pushed out, there's nothing that you're gonna do over
Yeah,
here as
this is-
Reinhardt.
Well, and like my best friend's over here.
Yeah, you'd be much better off with her right over
Yeah.
here.
What am I doing? Be a shield here.
Well, you guys have finally realized how important Reaper is, I think, or at least you have, but you're addressing it in the wrong way.
I do want to be mindful of time here too, because I'm supposed to be somewhere in 10 minutes. But
Oh, okay. We can just blast through the rest of this and make
Yeah.
comments on it. So monkey call right there should have been made, probably 3 seconds ago.
Got the Moira.
Nice.
You got somebody.
I got dumb though. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Though.
Try
You got complimented, but it was the wrong decision.
No, it was
Focus
absolutely
Anna.
the wrong thing to do. I knew it at the time too. It was a bad idea.
Monkey's still flipping
folks,
around.
reset
And the
the
question
camera.
is like, if Monkey has ult, do you focus him or do you not focus him? It's entirely comp specific. And if you're running goats or something else that's kind of
Okay,
low
push.
damage, then you should call
Post.
Monkey as soon as he jumps, and then as soon as he ults, call something else.
Get the Moira in.
Yep.
Nice.
But you guys have enough
Dynamite.
damage
Get the monkey.
that you could probably kill him through his ult. I don't disagree with that solo grab,
Yeah.
All right.
We're good,
so that's fine.
Sorry, that was my fault. I pooped.
How do we secure that?
Alright.
That's
It's
weird.
good, it's good.
It looked like they kind of did the same thing that you did, where they
Okay.
just like jumped in, didn't really do anything.
Ah,
The Reapers-
Oh, I see
So
what's
much time.
happened. I had so this recording is a partial recording, right? Oh no, this is that was the second. We've gone through 2 maps already. Okay.
hmm
We don't.
Um,
it depe-
I
it
want
depends,
to
like,
finish the rest of this, but I
think
do
you
have
got
to
a lot of
go.
value with
So
Okay,
I'm wondering if we can maybe pick this up
Yeah.
later.
sure.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun to try to think about things because it's a lot easier to look at a VOD review and like say like here are all the things that got fucked up than it is to actually do it in a game. So like anyone who's listening to anything that we're saying shouldn't feel bad because with experience and just like proactive thinking, all of the stuff that we've talked about will become incorporated into your guys' gameplay over time. But it's just important to have it all in the back of so that you can think about it when you're losing,
hmm
and it helps give you tools to figure out why that might be.
Right.
But Overwatch is fast paced and you cannot be perfect, but becoming better and eventually becoming a professional is just all of the things that are said and probably much more complex things that I don't understand have just become ingrained in their play styles. So, but it's better to have something to work off of than
Of course.
nothing.
Yeah, of course. Yep.
Okay.
Do you still want the Mercy or do you want like a Moira?
I think I want a Moira.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Moira.
And speed boosting?
which way?
Gonna go main.
Mid?
Yeah.
Yeah, main mid. They went
They're going
inside.
underneath.
Okay.
Or yeah,
have point
that
control?
too.
They have main. They have bastion.
They have Bastion, they have Bastion.
They had a
Dead,
bastion. You were correct.
Oh dear. I forgot
That's
that
r-
they had a bastion. That almost
I mean-
explains what's about to happen next.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, very lucky that you killed the Bastion. Because
Oh yeah, I guess I got the fire strike on him.
it didn't even look like it
Oh, careful
would
with
have
the fire.
died.
Yep.
Also, if Oasis fortifying like that, you might as well just hold up your shield because the damage reduction is going to mean that you're not even going to get a lot of ult charge, and that would be the main reason to swing on her there.
Okay.
And you're not going to kill her while she's fortified if there's a healer around. So even if
Yeah.
she didn't have a healer with her, you might as well just hold up your shield while she's fortifying.
Okay.
She's behind us.
Yep. Back up. Back up. Back up.
Behind.
Your Ashe got killed by Moira.
Yeah. And Anna. Who is right there,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I just didn't see the Moira. I don't know if I heard a call for the Moira.
I don't. So, and I think that. Can we maybe back up a little?
You were correct.
She,
Very nice.
that must have been
Oh,
her
careful
right
with the
there.
fire.
Yep.
Nope. Yeah, right there.
She's behind us.
Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
back up, back
So
up.
she just wraithed in behind your team.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she just disappeared.
Back up.
And now your
Ah.
Moira will die in a second. Or not
Yeah,
your
the-
Moira, your Ashe will die in a second.
Yeah, there's just like a flash, and I don't
Yeah.
know. I think she just right clicked her.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
it's a
there's-
melee.
Yeah, your Ashe must have been low, and then I don't know, Arisa or someone, Anna, that could see her called it, and then the Moira just went in and killed her. So that's just a reaction time issue. Like a Moira probably shouldn't kill anyone in your backline, but it happens. Like
Yeah.
even in Diamond, like all the people in like California server that I play with that are like Diamond Moira mains are like I DPS all the time, and I just like slowly cringe.
Right.
But if you can get away with it, then do it, I guess. But whatever.
Behind Moira. I'm down.
Where's it?
Okay, so that was a call after the death, which is good, and there wasn't much time to react to it beforehand. I mean, the call could have come as soon as she like right then been like, Moira behind, let's get her. But it was like less than a second when she came in that the Ash died, so that's fine. And the call came out afterward, and it looks like Lilith at least noticed beforehand, or the call made Lilith notice. So she died. And that's the main part of that. So that's fine.
Far down.
Okay. Focus the Anna.
What the fuck?
Okay, good
Right.
call on the Anna.
Nice.
Nice job.
And you can burst her and fortify if your whole team
taking
is
the high ground.
focusing her.
You killed the
They still
flower.
have the Bastion.
You're perfect.
But so this is an aspect of Reinhardt you might not think about all the time, is that you can control your guys' ult economy with your shield. Like that's another point it serves. So if your team can kill the Orisa without your extra damage, then you might just want to hold the shield up anyway to not give her ult charge.
Okay.
Yeah, because right there when she fortified, like everyone's on her. She's the last one left. Your team could have cleaned her up, and this is especially important for high impact ults like Graviton. If you're in the cleanup phase, and then there's a Zarya, and your team can handle it, and you don't need to add the extra damage, and you don't need the ult charge, then you can just hold your shield up and keep that crucial ultimate from coming online sooner.
I think I was thinking more selfishly because I don't have ult.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's just that
They're
it's
going
however you
not
want to
the
weigh it.
other way.
Right.
Left side.
They're going
But
I
it
just know-
definitely wasn't
Are they
something
going
I was
far
thinking
left,
about.
or are they
Good.
going?
Good observation.
Supercharger takes a
Oh,
while to
never mind,
charge,
they should-
so
they're going mid.
if you can stretch it out even more, then
Let's
Right.
do it now.
Now, yeah.
Oh, there's a sim.
Side.
Oh shit.
Oh, they have a bastion. What the fuck?
Oh Jesus Christ.
This is ultimate sheet.
yes, he just died too often. Okay, so it's great that you guys are trying to take the fight to the Bastion, which is appropriate. They have a sim, I think, who's distracted over here, but if she was with this, like this interior engagement would be
Be bad
Not
news bears.
very bad, very, very bad.
Yeah.
You guys are also going to have to pass through a shield to get to this Bastion,
Yeah, that's what I appear to be doing now.
which is fine because you're not playing with an Ana, but it still blocks Moira healing.
Right.
And then Lucio would have to take an awkward angle to try to heal you guys. So if you notice that the Symmetra is over here, then this interior engagement becomes fine. But as the tanks roll, it would then be your job to call going onto the Bastion and giving your team a countdown to know that's what's going to happen. Because even like you guys are doing it together in quotes, but you're actually like a fifth of a second off on your engagement times each, which is why your Zarya is going to die right here.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna
I'm
go
right
to
in
the
that.
Bastion.
I go D.Va to help with Bastion.
I got you on.
It's fortunate that your Junkrat got the kill there.
I'm dead though.
Someone's on point.
I didn't see the
Yeah,
Junkrat
it's
positioning,
okay,
but
whatever.
if you have your own Junkrat in the back right there, then the interior engagement also becomes fine.
I think that our
Uh,
Junkrat had high ground there.
Yeah, which is good because they have a good angle on the Bastion and Orisa then. So whoever made the side call on that one, and then your Junkrat actually turning that into action and interpreting that with his positioning or her positioning, and getting an angle on the Bastion Orisa setup. So that was pretty good. It wasn't an explicit plan that you guys called to set up or engage at any given time, but that's just how Junkrat works, and so it's good that someone said where they were coming from and that your Junkrat was able to capitalize on it. But you lost your Zarya unnecessarily because if you just waited 3 more seconds or 5 more seconds, however long, then you could have been in front of your Zarya with shield,
Yeah, could have been
And she
saving
could
her
have had-
bacon.
both of her bubbles for you guys to hard push with like a Lucio speed boost into that Bastion. And if you're really smart about it, before you make the call, or when you make the call to count down, you start the countdown when the Orisa has already used her fortify. So then you know you're going to be able to steamroll over them. So you're like, okay, we're going to go in on them in my mark. I'll call 3 countdown or whatever. I'll count down. And then as soon as the Orisa uses fortify, you'd be like, okay, 3, 2, 1, boop, and go in. Fortify, because you would have landed the charge on the Bastion there, but the Orisa blocked you. And if you're Zarya's got both of her bubbles, then you charging in there is like a guaranteed pick on the Bastion, which is their main source of damage, and that's a 1 fight. So
Okay, watch, wait.
Don't go there.
Yeah.
Take cover on fire.
So it's good that you're
Yeah, that was
you know
bad.
just telling them to wait because you
Oh,
don't want to
my
wing
gosh,
head
it's on
first
point.
into a Bastion.
I'll
She was
for help
after
earlier.
me.
The Ashe shouldn't have died
They're
to a
not on
Moira
point.
again.
I'll
So
bash into
just
an
a
early grave.
I don't know if it's a grouping issue or just a reactivity issue.
Yeah, I'm not
but your
sure.
healers should be able to help your Ashe. So, if Ashe is too far away, maybe stay a little closer so that DPS Moiras don't do that to you. Or if your healers maybe aren't reacting fast enough, just try to keep an eye out for instances like that where you've got one person on the point and the Moira is coming in with her low damage output to try to finish them off for some reason.
They're not on point. Back up. Give him space. Give him space.
Someone on point. Oh, fuck.
That's a good call.
Yeah, get the
Oh,
monkey
watch
on
the tourist with
monkey.
his teleporter.
You should be screaming Sim right now.
Oh, perfect.
I know, but I wanted them to
I'm gonna
kill the
switch
monkey.
DMing.
Okay. No, that's fine then. That's fair.
And I felt like I
Where
could
should we
probably
look?
get the sim, or at least back
Oh,
her
shit.
off. But
Follow the target.
I'm trying to not die.
No more. No
Not
more
back.
holds. No more holds. Reset.
Okay, reset.
I'm gonna make sure I die on.
That's one.
Okay.
One fucking bunker comp.
You can Hanzo and like Storm Arrow his ass.
Oh,
like,
yep.
around him. Yeah.
I mean,
And they're running a
I'm
Bastion
gonna
without
set
a
my
Baptiste,
ult
which is
to
makes it
boost,
even
like,
easier to kind of
try
run
to-
over them.
Kill the Bastion behind the field.
I'm gonna go.
You
Reaper
cannot
just
jump
for the
up.
monkey.
I know you
Yeah.
can't. I was just doing it so that I
am
wasn't gonna
Okay.
push too fast.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we're gonna take high ground.
Okay,
Wait for the
sure.
Reaper. Wait for the Reaper.
So when you call your engagements, you make sure you do a ready check because your diva has 2 seconds before DM can be used again. And if it's low, or if she's used it in the past like 1 second and you call to go in and she's not ready, then the Bastion's still gonna eat you.
Yeah.
So it's just another benefit that giving your team like a plan, a structure, where you're gonna go, and giving them time to like ready themselves for that with a countdown of a few seconds is critical, especially for bunker comps.
Take high ground. High ground.
Save
Sim.
Lucy.
You probably could have charged that monkey.
All the way.
Okay.
I have nerf.
There's someone behind. There's someone behind.
This is a good call again. So the shorter the distance of engagement
Yeah.
onto that Bastion, the better. I don't know why they took different directions. They should have followed their Reinhardt into the staircase here.
You're having the same brainwave I'm having in this video in this exact moment, because when I turn around, I see this, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? I don't know what to do next. Like, how can I make a call for the team when everybody's trying to come in at different angles? I don't know.
Well, so the call was made. I think at least I heard a call and assumed that it meant like you guys were coming up high ground and you're going to come down here.
Yeah.
And you're going to engage on the Bastion. And this is probably the best way for you to engage on the Bastion, because when you make an engagement on Bastion, you want to have the time where you have to travel with your shield up to be the smallest possible. So this is a good engagement call. And if your diva was right next to you and your healers were actually behind you, I don't know how this engagement goes. I don't actually know what character this is over here.
I think that's
but
Reaper.
okay, you guys have a Reaper now?
Yeah, Reaper's in front.
Yeah, so I'll just say, like, straight up, if your diva was right here next to you with your Hanzo kind of right behind you also, with your Moira ready to coalesce you in, if you call for the engagement and charged at the Bastion and diva DM'd you, you'd already kill the Bastion. And then the rest of these resources that people are looking to use on the Bastion wouldn't be necessary and could be used for other parts of the fight.
Right.
So I don't know if this Reaper that's going in right now is going to die, because this engagement is about a second too fast.
Yeah.
And it would have been safer just to come in with your Rhine and use his shield and then use Wraith if you get into danger. But now you're probably going to have to use Wraith to engage. And if that Bastion doesn't die when you come out of Wraith in like half a second, this Reaper's going to be dead. So we'll see.
Keep coming. Come as a team.
Bastion, I'm the Bastion.
Would have ignored the
Fucking
monkey.
shit.
It's good.
I died to the Bastion.
Okay. So Moira coalesced on point, like we saw earlier, dropped down from high ground, died. When she could have been behind the Rhine shield on that engagement. So
The Bastion.
out of position there.
Alright, their Anna's down.
Line aside the Bastion.
Oh, I just got killed by the Symmetra. Damn it.
Okay. Nobody called where the Bastion rotated to, which is probably the most important thing that you guys need to keep track of in these fights. So if you're playing against a Bastion, Bastion's bad, like ha ha ha, but just like Reaper, who's also bad, ha ha ha. They're characters that have ways that they can be gimmicked, like Reaper can be zoned out, or Bastion can be kind of zoned out or played around because he's not very mobile. But at the same time, if you don't respect them and you don't keep track of them, they can also just completely destroy you. So I think everyone knows that. It's just when you're playing against Reapers, when you're playing against Bastions, when you're playing against Widowmakers, it's important to have someone at all times telling everyone where they are.
Our comms, I think that we all do know that, but our comms don't reflect that we know that in the VOD.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And so, you for the general rule of thumb is that you stay away from the Bastion. You don't engage on the Bastion until you all engage on the Bastion. And these turrets are probably annoying.
Careful with the...
Shield it. I don't have E.
Yeah.
I'll push him
we're
out. I'll push him away as fast as I
We're
can.
down. This is a death. Reset.
Okay. Yeah, reset.
Okay.
Do you wanna-
Okay, so I actually killed all you guys there. So
Okay.
I have nerve.
There's someone behind.
okay. I don't really know what the right way to phrase this is, but sometimes saying that there's someone behind isn't useful and can be distracting to your teammates. It is strictly an information call, and we talked about the difference between executive calls and information calls. And while it is useful to know, until you guys have militaristic drive to listen to your main tank, who should basically be calling shots right now, or your support, whoever's doing the shot calling, until that's ingrained where you only act on those calls and just kind of absorb the rest of those calls, a call like that can actually make people double take and then ruin this plan that you guys have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when somebody says oh, there's someone behind, and two of your characters turn around for a second, maybe
this is a consistent problem, I think, for the team with monkeys in particular, because monkeys just jump on our supports, and then our supports are like, help, 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 help. And a good monkey always does that when we're about to engage or in the beginnings of an engagement. And so the help, help, help doesn't immediately translate into a whip around. It takes a couple seconds to realize whether or not that's the most important thing to do. Because again, as you pointed out, we're starting to separate, and Reaper may hear there's somebody behind, even if they know that it's the monkey, they're still gonna press W, right?
Mistakenly.
Yeah,
because you have a 2,000 health shield about 5 steps behind you that you could be using. That is the Reaper right here.
Right. I think our diva immediately turns around, right? And then ultimately that call does just fragment the team, but it's also possibly the case that we were fragmenting for multiple reasons. That call, there's maybe a little bit of tunnel vision for a Reaper who just sees the Bastion, and immediately feels like pushing in. Also because if we play this just a little bit,
I have nerve.
There's someone behind.
Right here, Tengu hears someone or feels something behind and immediately drops down, rather than wraithing this way for whatever reason, doesn't matter. But then in 1.5 to 2 seconds, as our Reaper turns the corner, what they're going to see is our Moira on the point, right in the middle of all of that, and they're going to deduce in that second that perhaps the best thing that they could do is to put pressure on the Bastion and try to get Bastion to turn that way. Yeah.
Which he does.
Yeah.
But if we roll this back just half a second, you have to trust that the grouping of your team and the speed of your Lucio is going to be enough for you. So with Moira and with Lucio especially, with both those healers, if you're grouped up, that monkey, even if he jumped on you when you were on that high ground right there, if you had a plan, just keep going through with it because he can't chase you down with the speed boost and he's never going to deal enough damage to kill you if he's the only one on high ground. So your one option, if your team is reactive enough and has enough comms, is to 180 him on all 6 characters and delete him and then go about your day. For you guys, that's probably not realistic. And so you should just continue pressing W towards the Bastion, which was the plan.
All the
And
way,
so
all the way.
if we
Okay.
pause right here,
Yeah, right here you saw. I think you saw it too. Like that was when Winston pushed his shift or his jump or whatever, right?
yeah, that's because he's a bad Winston, and he's like, I'm assuming they're gonna come through this main choke down here because that's what people do, and whatever. He should have tried to cut you guys off right here instead, but I think something I'm noticing based on this VOD is that the people in this rank just, they have very defined expectations of what opponents will do and what teammates will do. And so he's just assuming you guys are going to walk onto the point and just like deal with whatever they have set up for you.
Right.
That their defense is perfect for this little doorway down here in the choke. But the thing I wanted to point out is that you have a Rhine with a shield, and you have a Reaper up here and a Diva in front of it also, which is unnecessary at this point. Because if this Orisa down here was any good, she'd pull your Reaper right off, and he'd be dead. And the shield could stop that from happening. So, just something to be mindful of, because I've had it happen to me. Because bunker is so common now, that when you think you should be safe, like no one's gonna challenge Reaper up here except Monkey, and he should be safe. Except that orb could kill him right now. So it's just something to be mindful of. If you're gonna make this kind of flanking push, you should be as a core with Reinhardt, and then Diva, and then Moira, and then Lucio, and like Reaper, and your Hanzo. Just kind of zoom in up through here as quickly as you can to catch the Orisa and the Bastion, who are slow off their rotation. And then if Monkey jumps in, like, he is not going to kill any of you, so it's fine. But we'll go here.
There's someone behind. There's someone.
Someone says someone behind. I don't know whose voice that is, but that's why maybe if
That's
you
our Moira.
drop. And yeah.
Someone behind.
Keep coming, keep coming.
Yeah, so even you hesitated a little bit based on that call, and your Diva definitely hesitated based on that call, and your Moira jumped down and pressed Q because of that call. So sometimes those things are detrimental. If you're not gonna deal with the monkey, then if you're not gonna deal with the monkey and you're not gonna die to the monkey, then it might be better not to say anything.
Keep coming. Come as a team. Come as a team. Come as a team.
Bastion, I'm the Bastion. Fucking shit. I died to the Bastion.
All right, their Anna's down.
Okay, so Bastion got your Moira. We already know that happened. In the meantime, he's moving this way to get out of danger and set up. And it looks like because of the hesitation, the monkey got some chip damage on Diva, and then she also took a different route, which isn't strictly bad if you guys round the corner at the same time, but because you also hesitated, then she came in first when your Reaper was coming in, and you guys were split, and so it let them just focus fire you down pretty easy peasy. And I'm also assuming that there were some sim turrets on the point that probably made your Moira's engagement and your Diva's engagement harder than it needed to be. So because of the hesitation, effectively, pretty much directly, your Moira gets killed because she gets spooked off high ground, and your Diva loses her mech.
Line aside the Bastion.
Oh, I just got killed by the Symmetra. Damn it.
Yeah,
And then,
at this point, I don't know where the Bastion is.
right.
I guess.
And then because no one called Bastion, and you all kind of just jumped on the Orisa because you guys thought it was free. It looked like, and the Bastion was just ready to punish you for that.
Yeah.
You now lose your Hanzo, and then let's see who else is left. It's you and Lucio. Who's the other person on your team at this point?
Reaper
Okay,
hasn't died
Reaper's
yet.
he hasn't died yet. Okay, so I mean you'll lose your Reaper soon too. I assume
Yeah.
because
We all lose.
The Fort-
Lose.
Shield it.
okay, so your Reaper went back here.
After we picked off the Ana. I don't know why they did that.
Yeah, so that was a no. If your Reaper had made a rotation onto this Orisa with you, and stay with their Rhine like you all should be doing, then he might have been able to get a kill on the Orisa, or he might have been able to ward off the Sim and get the kill on the Sim when she tried to pressure you, or both of those things. So if Reaper had stayed with you grouped, he probably could have killed Orisa, maybe could have killed Symmetra, but with Orisa out of this picture, it's a Lucio Reaper Reinhardt with a pretty full shield versus a Symmetra and a Bastion, which is probably one. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I don't have E.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll push him out. I'll push him away as fast as
We're
I
down.
can.
This is a death. Reset,
Oh,
reset,
no,
reset,
okay.
reset.
Yeah, reset.
Oh, and it looks like
Okay,
Do you want to do the same thing?
Moira
Like,
got the
what they're
our
doing?
Reaper.
We have no. We
Mhm.
didn't go.
They're
All,
already set
I have
up.
no.
we have to go all the way around as a team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Correct.
Also, like, you just block the turrets and I'll take care of them if they're on you.
All right, let's turn around. Get the monkey.
Oh,
It should have been a
no,
little
no,
faster.
Keep coming. Keep coming forward.
But the monkey.
Uh,
I'll take care of
You
him.
could
He's
kill
back
it.
here with me.
Yeah, let's keep
Yeah,
going.
keep going.
you could kill that monkey fast enough as your whole team.
I
because you have a
wasn't sure because there was and previous to this game there was another instance where like not this map necessarily. I think it was Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
I made the erroneous call to try to focus an ulting monkey, and it didn't work out because we could, as a team, we could not focus fire an ulting monkey. So in my mind, like if there's ever an ulting monkey,
Mm-hmm.
we can't do it. Even
Okay.
though it's technically possible, I don't trust that the team can do it anymore. Now
Okay.
that
I mean, you
like
might be right.
and that might be something that we like push past and I regain that trust in the future, but like right now yeah, like I made an executive decision that like even though we should kill the monkey, even though the monkey is out of position and that ult is doing nothing, right, even if it's making it harder for the supports to follow us, we should try to push forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you though, we should have killed it.
Yeah. So 74%.
Yeah.
You have a Reaper and you have a Hanzo on your team. If you were playing Ghost, it might be tough to finish the monkey off, but the Brigade is stun and the Discord Orb might afford it to you. So I would say that most comps that have enough damage to be played in the first place could probably kill the monkey here. And that would do two things for you. You might be able to get your shatter out of it, and you would get a free pick. So if you think about how fast Reaper and Hanzo could kill you as a Reinhardt if you didn't put your shield up, 500 health, it only takes a little less than twice as long because the monkey doesn't have armor to kill that ulting monkey. So, Reaper could probably kill you in 2 shots if he aimed them well enough. Just pow, pow. So, maybe mechanically the team wouldn't be able to do it that quickly, but Hanzo and Reaper could probably kill that monkey if you guys all chased him down with a Lucio speed boost in realistically 3 or 4 seconds. But he knows that you guys probably aren't comfortable with that because he's been going in the backline all game. So that's probably why he's in your backline right now anyway.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier is disrespect your opponents until they make you respect them.
They're on you.
All right, let's turn around and get the monkey.
Oh, well.
No. Keep coming forward.
But the monkey.
I mean, look at him. He's coming back in. He's like, okay, one swipe and pass wasn't enough. He's like, they're just ignoring, so let's keep going. So it's a tough spot to be in, but you'll just have to learn when it works and when it doesn't. If the rest of their team was right here and they were pushing on you like they should be, I would say don't focus the monkey. But this man is in outer space right now. Like he is nowhere near his team, so he's gettable.
Monkey.
I'll take care of him. He's back here with me.
Yeah, let's keep
He's
going.
going
Keep
back to
going.
point.
But another thing about that is that if the call is made to not focus him, then you should just keep moving. Like the people that are like, I'll take care of him. No. Just keep going. Your healers should be able to mitigate the damage. If he really gets somebody out of position by booping them around while you were trying to ignore him, then that should be called, and you might have to change your decisions. But if the call is made to move forward, then trust your healers to keep you guys alive from the minimal damage that he'll be doing all by himself because his team isn't there, and just keep pushing. But it'll be up to the person that's actually calling whether to push or not to decide when what should be done. So, I don't know. This is another instance where like you weren't sure what to do really, so you kind of went back there and then you kind of went forward, and then your team, once you even made the call, isn't necessarily sure if they should listen to you or who
Yeah,
should.
they're like, no.
And I'll just say this right now, in Overwatch, making the wrong decision together can sometimes be better than one or two or three people making the right decision in quotes for each of them separately. So, just if you all are trying to do what you think could win the game, and it would be effective, sometimes that is worse than if you all just made the wrong decision together and played as a team, if that makes sense. Because half of your team right now is thinking, well, if we kill this monkey, we're going to get advantage. They would technically be right. The other half is, if we can get to the point, then maybe we can get disadvantage off the rotations because there's people right here and people right here, and I guarantee you the Orisa and Bastion are just waiting for you guys on point, so they're nowhere near their team either. It's like all three of these characters are free kills. All of them are correct decisions. They would all give you advantage, but if you're all pursuing them independently, then you're not going to get any of them. So sometimes the call that is made should just be executed, because if you all had moved forward right here with the Lucio speed boost, this Symmetra would be dead. I don't know if she dies right here or not.
He's
but we'll
going
see.
back to point.
Oh,
I fucked up.
I won't be able to heal you there.
Ryan, you're alone.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I'm with her.
Okay, so Sim died anyway. Monkey did make it back, so that's good. You guys did go together. It just took an extra, second or two that against a better team you wouldn't have had, because they would have pushed on you harder than that.
Keep coming up the stairs. My shield's down.
Okay, so I don't know.
Um,
Yeah. Whoever
Yeah.
did not, I think it was your Hanzo, because it's just popped up in the kill feed.
Ryan, you're alone.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm with her.
Keep coming up the stairs.
oh,
Did they
that's
get orbed?
unfortunate. No, they don't, because the orb comes in on our left side.
Ryan, you're alone.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm with her.
There's the orb.
Keep coming up the stairs.
They
Okay.
they went
fall
that way
down the
for
point.
some reason.
This is a no-no. Big no-no. But whoever sees this in a third person or another character's perspective probably recognizes that immediately.
Yeah.
Big no-no. Not only is there lots of damage right here, there's also now a bubble surrounding this Hanzo that he cannot be healed through, when he could have rotated up here with you guys and been perfectly safe. So this is just a throwing away of a character's life and giving away your one-man advantage that you had before. But that is just another example of like making the decision that you think is correct. Because if you all had pushed kind of like in this column area,
Yeah, and
like
reused
jiggled
it as a
jiggled the column,
Yeah.
and like called that with a speed boost and just like slammed into these two characters as hard as you could, you might be able to kill them. It's risky because there's an Orisa and a Bastion back there, but maybe it's probably not the better choice. But if you all make the decision together, maybe you'll get some advantage out of that. So maybe that's what this Hanzo is thinking. Like, oh, there's two people right here, and the Bastion can't shoot past this column, so this is what we should do. But in this specific instance, it doesn't matter because that's not what the team is doing. So figuring out how to coordinate properly and actually get everyone on the same page to accomplish the same objective is going to be really important moving forward. So, and I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're trying to do because it's exactly what I would be trying to do, is maybe going up high ground to get past the
Yeah.
bastion.
Sure, I'm just imitating something you've done before.
You're just trying to get the shortest route to the bastion. So one way is doing it this way. The other way, since the monkey was pressuring you guys in this back area, is that you might be able to catch him off rotation if you went this way instead and took their side of the point and then like walked up right next to the bastion.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, I've seen that work.
Yeah,
I feel
so
like that's the riskier play though, because
it is
a decent
depending on what they
bastion,
have.
a decent bastion will see me take 2 steps this way, and just immediately pivot this way.
Yeah.
A good
and that's
one.
fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm trying to think of the ways the bastion could pivot. So if you come up top, then the bastion could theoretically do what he did when you guys pushed last time and pivot over here,
Go there,
which is what killed you in your last push.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't quick enough. That's probably a better alternative. And if you communicate maybe that, then your Hanzo could just stay back and kill the bastion when he does rotate as a flank, especially if he was playing a Tracer or a Genji. So planning that rotation and trying to get a kill out of it is one thing you could do, which is probably better than the alternative of you pushing this way and the bastion rotating onto high ground. That's probably harder for you guys to deal with. But going back to the main point is that, everybody's got to be trying to accomplish the same thing. And you can think that you're doing the right thing, but if multiple people are doing the right thing, in quotes, but those are different things, then it would be better to do the wrong thing, in quotes, as a team. So regardless of, what you think of this route, what you think of ignoring the monkey or ignoring the people right here, it'd be better if you just did whatever the rest of the team was doing in this instance.
Up the stairs. My shield's down.
I'm gonna have a nerf on bastion.
Yep, that's alright.
Careful.
Okay.
He's down.
I'm asleep.
Okay,
And
I'm gonna
attack.
reset.
No nade. Okay.
Follow target.
Okay, so your Reaper almost had ult. Your D.Va did have ult that she used right here. Before the engagement happened, you guys could have planned a lot of things with those. If you hadn't have died, you would have also had Earth Shatter. So, I mean, you have many more resources in this fight than you need, I think, to win this. So one thing that you could have done is that when you are on high ground, maybe you don't take the longest way around. You can engage by going off this middle part and dropping down.
Yeah, because if we back up a sec, I'm like watching this and I'm cringing hard because I didn't need to do that.
I'm with him.
Keep coming up the stairs. My shield's down.
I'm gonna have a nerf on bastion.
Yep, that's
So
alright.
you still have time. You put your shield up when it's
But, like,
600.
But like, what am I doing here? Like, there's nobody here.
Your Lucio is somewhere behind you.
But there's nothing to shoot the Lucio. Like
Yeah.
right,
No,
like
the-
Bastion here, like cannot get that.
Yeah, right. You are correct. And so if you'd stayed back here where this monkey is now jumping, you might have gotten a kill on their monkey. But this nano bastion, as long as someone is here to touch, and there's this column right here that you could play around as a D.Va, isn't a threat to you guys right now. So like,
Right.
yeah, he is big and scary, and both of your tanks clearly want to make sure that no one dies. But no one would have died.
No one would have died. We should not have done that. Neither of
That
us.
is
Even to
Negative.
even to get like Diva Bomb off. That was planned before we saw that.
The D.Va bomb was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Valkyrie definitely said I'm going to, push Diva Bomb onto Bastion. But she said that and evaluated that before this happened. And
Okay.
probably what we can do later, like in the future, like in future situations, I can or she can just know that when we see something like this, we can wait. We can pull back. We can just come
Right.
back.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to push into that.
Just scream wait. In
Yeah.
fact, you pushing into that is exactly what that Bastion wants,
That's
because
exactly what he wants, yeah.
he's popped his ult right now, and he's like, well, fuck, what am I gonna shoot at? And
Well,
then
yeah,
you're gonna
'cause,
throw
like-
shoot at me.
Yeah, because like Reaper's over here.
Lucio's back here getting jumped on by Monkey right now.
Yeah. And I guess our Moira is too? Like,
I don't know where Moira is right now.
I'm not sure. But we just lost our Hanzo over here, so like there's nobody.
Yeah. So aside from all of this and all this stuff is happening, you guys didn't really talk about what you were gonna do. So from what I've seen, because I haven't seen a tab recently, but you almost have Shatter.
Yeah.
Your diva communicated that she had bomb and that she was going to use it on Bastion. So that's the plan right now.
Right.
I mean, that's the only plan right now. So it could be a lot better. Your Reaper has ult because he just pops it 3 seconds from now.
Yeah.
So you have 2 very powerful, deadly ults in bomb and in Reaper ult that are both kind of zoning. So when you have 2 like area of effect ults like that, and you don't have any other resources, because I don't know what else you guys have, you can still use them as like a double zoning tool. So the Orisa shield is probably the more problematic issue here, in that it's what was giving the Bastion some sustain. So before this fight broke out, a legitimate plan, which your diva had the right idea, is that I'm going to throw Diva Bomb into the shield. And when it's sitting inside the shield and the rest of their team is then forced to move, let's drop a Reaper ult right on top of them.
Yeah.
That's a good plan. That probably wins you the fight. And then once that plan is executed, you don't really need to go any further than that, because it's, at least a plan that you guys are going to try to play toward. You've probably got Shatter by then for cleanup if you need it.
Which I would probably use it in this situation, because if we cap, it's over.
Exactly. But instead, we don't really have a plan here. People have gone separate directions. Reaper's going down here. Your supports are getting dove because you guys are focused on the issues at hand here. You put your shield up too early to try to deal with this Bastion, because it was recharging as you're coming up the steps, and you put it back up and stopped it from recharging when it was at 600.
I didn't even fucking follow my own plan, because like this really only works effectively if I recharge over here.
Yeah. And yeah, we already established that you guys don't need to drop down there, because you do drop down there. Your supports are getting jumped on without help. I don't know if either of them will die directly because of that, but it also means you're not going to be getting any healing when you're down there.
Nope.
And so their Moira is here, their Orisa is here, their Bastion is here, their Monkey is back here. They have an Ana too. Still?
Theoretically, she
Stairs
must
up,
be
stairs
back
up, stairs.
here
My shield's down.
behind the shield, because I don't
I'm gonna have
see her.
a shield Bastion.
Yep, that's alright.
Careful.
So there's Monkey. See him poking his little head up.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, and in retrospect, I think I'm not as communicative with my supports sometimes, because I just assume they'll do what I would do in that situation, which is just GTFO that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's self-evident.
I think maybe mistakenly. So a lot of people panic with Monkey, and they try to go into interior areas because they feel safer, or they try to like strafe back and forth in panic, or they try to like run away from their team to try to get away from him. But the fact of the matter is that most of the time he's as fast as you are, if not faster, if you're trying to run backwards or strafe. And so it's safer to just group up when he's electrocuting you. But anywho, Really, Overwatch is a lot about forming plans, having a good game sense, having good positioning, and reacting to things appropriately when those plans don't happen. But I mean, Overwatch is like 30% mechanical skill, 30% communication, and like 40% plan structuring in an organized setting. So like you guys both jump down here as your tanks, which is extremely solo queue. It's a solo queue tactic because you don't know what to expect out of your
Yeah.
teammates because
Yeah.
you've never played with them. So you assume that they're all just like trying to do whatever that they want to do, and you got to be the one to take this in the face, or your team's gonna die and they're gonna flame you. Uh, but that's not the case. Everybody's safe here because everybody's for the most part playing together. So there's no need to feel so anxious to get shot in the face by this bastion. And now that you are in this situation and they've nanoed the bastion and they're about to pop the supercharger, which no one has been tracking,
No.
that bastion ult's probably online, nano's probably online,
Yeah.
Arisa ult's probably online. No primal because they just used it. But those are things that you're going to need to deal with so that when you do come up with a plan, like the Diva Bomb Reaper ult plan, that if one of these things, these ults that are extremely impactful, is going to interrupt that plan, then you need a different plan or a better plan. Or you could at least make a plan that takes those things into account. And, maybe it doesn't work, but it's better than what we're looking at right now.
Yeah. Clearly,
But
no
then,
plan is a bad plan.
right. And now that you found yourself in this situation, and this is really what Overwatch is all about, you make a plan, you execute it. It's never going to go perfectly, or I guess I should say it's rarely going to go perfectly, especially as your opponents get better and better. And it's going to fall upon people kind of like making individual smart decisions. So, like, Hanzo doesn't come this way. And you guys be patient when this happens as the tanks, so that when Monkey is like, now's my chance to jump, maybe you can get a charge on him and kill him.
Yeah. That's true.
But you'd also have to be aware that there's only 5% now, so your diva will probably not be able to help you in the monkey charge, and we'll probably have to get on point.
Yeah, I wonder if there's maybe some panicking going on by different members of the team because of this figure, right? And there's some anxiety, well-intentioned but misplaced anxiety about touching the point or dying on point at this point because that number.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Just to phrase it this way, as long as you are all alive, then you all have a chance to have a team fight, which is the most probable way that you're gonna win. And as long as one person touches that point and initiates overtime, then you can still have that team fight. So there's no reason to put yourself out of position to get into overtime if your team is like mostly alive still.
Yeah.
You should
I
be talking ahead of time about who's going to do that if you need to do that. But it should also be communicated ahead of time if that's a problem that you guys have. That, we have plenty of time. Like, let's set up this way, and, this person will touch it if it's the last second.
Maybe, like, in the short-term future, it would be better to say something like, well, we know we need to touch the point, but staying together as a team is more important. At the risk of a C9, right? Like, obviously, it's probably my job to call who should die on point in that situation. If the team isn't ready to commit,
right. I mean, so time is a resource, right? And with that resource, it lets you try to create better engagements, which is your job as a tank. So let's say like we were actually 4% further into the future than we are now, but you guys are still down here. Like, then you'd have to join your Hanzo in this engagement because someone's going to get on the point.
It would have made way more sense to bring the team fight here if this were 99.
Yeah, because someone's going to have to touch. You might as well do it as a
together.
Team,
yeah.
So that person isn't just committing suicide and putting you into a 5v6. But that's not the case. So you have this resource left, about 10%, to try to get some form of positioning set up on the point, which is great for you guys. And you'll learn how to capitalize better on that resource in the future. Because it would have been a fucking shit show to have to make the engagement right here. But that's still better than having one person get picked off and making the engagement up here, probably. It just
Split
really depends.
engagement, right? It's like one over here.
Yeah. I don't know what the
Two.
exact percentages are, but it's like 5v6 winning if there weren't any ults that like swung the fight either way. Like the 6-person team is gonna win like 70 to 80% of the time. That's just a good way to think about it. So like by losing, especially in professional Overwatch, which we are not professionals, but in Overwatch League, like losing one person is a huge blow. And they win like 90% of the fights where they get the first pick or something stupid like that. If you're down 2 and you have time, like it isn't the final fight, then it's probably better not to use ultimates, just as a general rule. So if like the fight's happening and it's 6v5 because you guys open up with a pick and then they get 2 of you, so it's a 4v5, that's still probably winnable if you invest ults or have good positioning. And then they get another one of you and it's 3v5, that's when you make the call. Like, okay, probabilistically not winnable. We're down 2 overall. And then as soon as you say that, you guys manage to get a lucky pick because one of them gets over aggressive and you're like, winnable, winnable, winnable. And you change that call. If you have ults to use to try to get it back. So yeah, as a general rule, if you're down 2, just know that you should probably reset. But there are some rare things that you'll be able to capitalize on, or rare instances where you'll be able to turn it around. But I mean, think about how many times that like YOLO shatter as you're about to die, or the YOLO grab has like actually paid off.
Yeah.
Versus, you just dying and wasting your ult when you could have just come in 20% later with a much stronger engagement with ultimates. But that's a separate point. So we'll see kind of how this falls apart here. You guys drop down, your monkey's not going to get any value. If you'd thrown D.Va ult into here early with your Reaper, maybe up here or like up here on the flank route.
Yeah, I mean, if
capitalize on the rotation.
If D.Va comes in here and pushes them out, even literally anywhere else in this, I would expect like that to just be strictly better, because I think our Reaper ults here.
Right.
Which in that situation, the shield is still providing them with some advantage because the D.Va bomb is only right here.
Yeah, well, the D.Va bomb does blow up the shield. I
Does
think
it?
maybe she places a new one right as the Reaper starts ulting, but there are a few seconds where the shield is gone. It's when she puts down the supercharger and you're swinging on her from up here.
Yeah, okay.
The shield does get blown up, but this is another example of like you guys not being on the same page and people trying to do different things that are, in quotes, correct or right. So like your D.Va sees that they're grouped up here and they're outside of the shield, she's dropping bomb right here. So like they can't get back in the shield. Sure, okay, whatever. Your Reaper also sees these people down here when he probably could be playing more conserved and dealing with this monkey maybe, because you don't need to make the engagement yet. But he sees these people grouped up nonetheless. And he's coming in to get this fat ult and maybe kill a few of their people. Both of those could be good value, but in this context, neither of them are really correct because you guys aren't on the same page about it. So like I mentioned, like D.Va bomb in here, then a Reaper ult would be really good. Or like worse, but still better is Reaper ult in here, but D.Va bomb out here. But instead you get a D.Va bomb and then like 3 seconds later you get a Reaper ult because you guys haven't talked about it. And both people are like, I'm going to do what I can to help this fight. And both could be useful, but it's the timing of it that makes neither of them useful. So the Ana that's presumably right behind you just purpled you.
I'm asleep. And
Gonna
attack.
reset.
No nade.
Okay.
Follow the target.
Just kill the Bastion.
I got the Ana. Fast.
If this person had the beat, I don't know if they did. Obviously,
was
would have been
like-
much more useful earlier.
Yeah, I don't think they did though.
Bastion's in the corner. Can't do anything about that.
Yeah, my Bastion is past the
But that is also something that needs to be communicated then. If you're about to enter the final fight and someone, or any fight for that matter, and you're like 9% away from your ult, or less, or even like 80%, and you have time to try to build that ult up because you think it's going to be important based on your planning for the next fight, just play it slow and wait until you actually have it online.
shield.
I'm gonna stall.
And it would be each individual person's responsibility or the shot caller's
Not a lot of
responsibility to do
stalling
that.
happening.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
turrets, man. God.
So if like Reaper didn't have quite his ult yet, which is why it was delayed and not really timed up with the rest of your stuff, and the Lucio didn't quite have it yet, then those need to be, like, people involved need to be made aware that that's the case, and you guys need to try to take some sort of defensive angle to stall this point until you actually have those ultimates online. Because why not? If you think you can get on the point and like make sure that the game isn't lost, and then actually build to an ult surge, like why not?
Yeah.
Because your Lucio basically almost had ult, and your Reaper maybe almost had a ult too, but not quite, and your Shatter you got right before you died. Like all three of those could have actually been used in the fight instead of not, or like dying using them because the advantage is already lost.
God. Oh well.
I didn't even know where the Bastion was. I know
And
it
I
got
guess-
up, but
That's true even if it isn't the absolute final fight. So like it feels especially bad here because you don't get to use your Shatter, and like the Reaper ult doesn't get anything, and then Lucio has to use his ult just to stall because it's the final fight, and you like lose off of that, and you're like, wow, that's a lot of resources that we could use to win the game. But even if it was like 20% and they have control of the point and it's 40%, waiting for those ultimates to come online so that fight is, very much in your favor
Yeah.
is the difference between using your ults to get control of the point and then they're stuck at 40% and they don't get it back until 80% because you guys used your ults wisely, versus you using your ults mistimed, or like you didn't have them online, or you didn't know if you should be using them and you hesitate and you don't generate the advantages with them, and then you lose the fight because you're disorganized, and then now they're at 99% before you guys have another good ult, like an ult rich push to actually try to take this back. So like that felt extra bad because it was a final fight and it's what lost you the game. But even in earlier fights, not waiting for ults to come online or not coordinating them properly, or not using them
Systematic
because
problem.
not using them because you don't think you're going to get enough value, or you like you've got grav but you think you need to hit like 3 or 4 people with it. That's just strictly not the case. Like ults are there to gain advantage, like I always say, and you can use them to retake advantage in rare circumstances, but why do that when you could have come up with a plan and used them efficiently to begin with? So
Well, I appreciate you going over all this with me.
Yeah, I couldn't.
where he went.
I
Yeah,
couldn't get anyone
no
near
problem.
The Bastion 'cause the turrets were
Hey,
just-
a third person perspective would be
Gross.
more useful to specifically point out like positioning things.
Yeah. I think because that's not really possible in this competitive mode format, we do scrims to try to get that from time to time.
Mhm.
There was, I don't know that it's worth going over now because it's kind of oldish. I feel like we have learned some things since then. But next chance we get to have that kind of spectated view, I will hit you up.
Okay.
But we also, a couple of us are just recording different perspectives. So like pretty consistently, I think everybody has a VOD in the can right now that they could share, but we're tending to save different games. I don't know. Maybe in the near future we'll all have like one game where we could kind of break down the perspective.
Yeah, that'd be good. And a lot of what I talked about was very like general stuff, just like ults or like who should be communicating what and
Right.
general ideas for engagement or like things you could have gotten away with or couldn't have gotten away with, and like general timing mistakes or not coming up with plans mistakes. And those are things that you guys should probably work on first because they are the ones that are going to make the largest impact. And you know, then in down the line we can talk about like individual play stuff. So like I commented on some of your stuff that I noticed, but like I'm sure that there are several hundred mistakes within that game that
Yeah.
people have made, and that's not to rag on anyone because no matter what rank you are, there are quote unquote mistakes being made by everyone because you know it's very complex, it's very dynamic, things are changing all the time in an
Right.
Overwatch game. So there's just ways that you can play it better to get, you know, more value out of each ability or you know
The mistake bell
whatever.
curve.
Right. Yeah.
Right? There's like a certain point where like these are just the most common mistakes and you try to avoid these. These should just never happen, but they do. And these ones are almost not your fault, but you should have done something different.
Yeah. It's like people who are really good at Overwatch are just better at playing to probabilities. So like the
Right.
ways that they position give them more opportunities to like simultaneously decide when they want to be aggressive or when they want to be defensive, and they're not locked into either one. So they're playing to their probabilities there because it's like who knows if they're going to hard push. I could get out if I needed to, or who knows if they're going to be too passive. I could be aggressive if I needed to. Having all of those options available to you is kind of the sign of a good position. And using your abilities in a way that gives you multiple options, like your mobility abilities, like dropping off high ground and then retaking high ground with your mobilities if you need to because you're in danger, is another way to just like play to those probabilities. Because, like I said, you can't have perfect information, so a lot of it is just playing to probabilities, even if people don't realize that.
Right.
Like sequencing your abilities properly, like holding on to a Zarya bubble until your Reinhardt is like roughly half health because you're playing goats is generally better because why would you add 200 health to his health pool when he hasn't taken any damage when you could theoretically, you know, wait for his entire health pool to be drained to half, give him the bubble, let your healers heal him back up, increasing his effective health pool by like 300 points plus the shields, which is another 200 of like, so that'd be, you know, his effective health pool then becomes like 900 instead of bubbling before he takes damage, which would only make his effective health pool 700 because his health isn't going down and then back up. So, you know, Zarya gets 40 charge out of the first instance, and the Reinhardt doesn't die because he has an effective health pool of 700. But if Zarya, you know, waited half a second and timed her ability properly, she'd get 40 charge, and she'd give each of her healers like 10% ult charge, and she'd give her Reinhardt an effective health pool of 900 plus a 2000 health shield that he wouldn't have to be using. And then maybe she removes purple from him because she waited until he was half and threw the nade in.
Yeah.
Basically, once you've made a commitment with aggression or positioning, or in this example, an ability, you've not ruined, you have manifested it, right? Like all of its potential is then determined. So, you know, in this Zarya bubble example, using it prematurely probably means that this path has been determined, but holding it on to it longer lets you kind of decide like which path it will take when you see the opportunities. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah, that makes sense to me.
So like this opportunity in a fight is like you used it to initiate the fight, and then maybe this gives you Reinhardt like 10% ult charge. But this one probably also gives you Reinhardt 10% ult charge if you use the bubble in the middle of the fight when you thought they were fighting. But then you see like a Reinhardt charge, and you haven't used your bubble yet. So you missed your chance to get this juicy opportunity because you held on to it too long. But you also now get to then use your bubble to save your Rein from the enemy Reinhardt's charge. Or maybe he lives through that, and these possibilities keep coming on when you could use this bubble. But if you blew it on the first option, you wouldn't be able to like go through the list of these things and like see when you should use bubble. It's like deterministic kind of, I don't know, probability determinism in Overwatch. It's once
Well,
you've chosen something.
it's more about like the difference between like theory and practice. Like everything is in theory until you practice it, and so that's kind of the same idea. I don't know that it's necessarily like deterministic, but
Right. Yeah. But I mean that's just an example, like in an ability, I guess. But the same principle applies to compositions. So you could win theoretically a shitty composition in a very specific way, but there's a very small percentage chance that that might work because it relies on the opposing composition to not be able to deal with it, or like their positioning or their playstyle not to be able to deal with it. And there's a very small chance of that happening. Whereas the comps that generally have better outs at like a high skill cap level are the ones with lots of mobility, lots of options, and so that they can react to like anything is thrown at them. So it's just a higher like percentage chance that you'll be able to deal with whatever comes out of the gate. So it applies to comps, and like I said, it applies to positioning, and it also applies to timing. So it's like if we just waited 5 more seconds, is that going to give us the ults that we need online? And that's going to give us a better chance of winning this fight. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed. Or we could go in right now when we're 10% away from 3 ults and then die before we get them online. But those are just, obviously black and white, like obvious examples. But the point I'm just trying to make is that it applies to every aspect of Overwatch. How you use your abilities, where you go, when you go, and what you play. All comes down to getting better at Overwatch comes down to playing to your outs and maximizing those probabilities that something will work or like be versatile enough to handle multiple situations.
That makes sense. I agree with that sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah.